Hello, everyone, and welcome to the June 23rd meeting of the Midcoast Community Council. Dave, could you please call the roll?
Claire?
Here.
Dan? Dan?
You're on mute, Dan.
Here.
Greg?
Here.
Jill?
Here.
Len?
Here.
Michelle?
Here.
And I'm here. We're all present.
Great, thank you so much. We're going to get started with the Board of Supervisors report. Lena Silberman, turn it over to you.
Thanks, Michelle. So I've just got three pretty quick updates. One is exciting, the other two are probably not that exciting. But my first one is about the local hazard mitigation plan. I attended a meeting, an internal meeting today, got an update, still on track. And some of the suggestions that some of the MCC members had requested, I did see added. So evacuation planning for the Midcoast is now going to be added to the plan. And working with PG&E to add PSPS resource centers on the coast side has also been added. And I'm following up to see if some other requests have been added as well. My very exciting announcement is that effective July 1st, property owners within the unincorporated area of San Mateo County no longer need a permit to remove eucalyptus, pine, acacia, tan oak, or bay trees. And don't get too excited if they fall within 100 foot of homes or 30 feet of an escape route or public or private property route. So this for now will be effective for 1 year. That doesn't mean it will only be effective for 1 year. And it'll be waiving all permit requirement fees, of course. This was a collaborative effort between the supervisor's office, the planning department, CAL FIRE, and the RCD. And I'm sure there's a lot of questions. There was supposed to be a press release out today. It wasn't out today. I'm assuming it'll be out tomorrow, if not by the end of this week. That'll have a lot more information. And then my last update is there was some interest in having a vaccination clinic on the Midcoast. And so I was provided a form, and I will share a link to that form. If you are interested in having a vaccination clinic nearby, there's a form you can fill out that health department will look and see about the viability of having a clinic near you. So that is all my updates for today, and I am happy to take questions.
Thanks so much, Lena. And I will just add to that, the reason that I was actually pushing for a vaccine clinic on the Midcoast is because some data came out. It's on the San Mateo County Health website, and maybe Lena could even share a link, but it shows the vaccination rates by community. And it was very low in Moss Beach. It was like 49% last I checked a few days ago. 90% I think in Montera and 61% in El Granada. So lower, much lower than the average. I believe the average for the county was like 80% or so. So we were even higher. So we're just surprised to see the vaccination rates being so low here. And the county did make aware. Well, we know that there are vaccines available at like the local pharmacies in Half Moon Bay and in Pacifica. So we do have those locations. There are also vaccines at the Coastside Clinic every Sunday, I believe it is. But we just noted that there was no actual vaccine clinic on the Midcoast for maybe those who aren't able to travel all the way to Half Moon Bay or Pacifica or other locations. So that was a request that I made, and I'd like to pursue that and try to understand why the rates are so low on some parts of the Midcoast. So I'll open it up for questions for Lena. Sid Young, please go ahead.
I was just going to say that if you're able to get a vaccination clinic for the Midcoast, it would be great to have it someplace like Baylor Ridge, because I have the feeling since they often work pretty hard and long hours, maybe they can't get out as easily as some of the rest of us that have just been trapped at home for a year. So I would like to see that area get the benefit of it one locally. Thanks.
Thank you, Sid. Dan Haggerty.
Yeah, I think Coastside Hope is doing vaccines in El Granada, or they have been at different times. I'm not sure their schedule.
Yeah, I looked on their website, and the last time they offered it was in March in El Granada. Now they're directing people, it seems like, to the Coastside Clinic. But I know that the county is working with them to
And
get the word out.
driven by. I think I've seen them there well after March.
Okay, it
it's-
may be that their website is just not up to date, so
That's
that
possible.
would be good information. I can try to get in touch, or if anyone else.
Okay. And
Mhm.
Lena, thank you very much for your report tonight. It's exciting to make it easier to have trees that need to be removed and want to be removed. You know, with waiving the permits. Just to be, I know you didn't mention anything in your report regarding the fire station lighting. Just wanted to confirm that there's no. I haven't heard back from Steve Monowitz. Just hoping that that I will someday. And the MCC regarding our last letter. So just want to confirm that you have nothing to report regarding the fire station lighting.
Yeah, I have nothing to report. I think that the supervisors kind of stepped back from that issue, so we haven't done anything with it since the last time we talked.
Do you represent the planning department to some degrees, San Mateo County Planning Department?
I can interface with them. I mean, especially with something like this, I don't feel super comfortable representing them. But if you have a specific request, I'm happy to see if the supervisor is comfortable with me fulfilling that request, whatever it may be.
Okay, well, I don't know if I need to repeat the request from last meeting, but yeah, okay,
Okay, yeah, I'll let the supervisor know that you brought it up again.
great, thank you.
Thank you. Jill Grant.
Lena, the news about the eucalyptus removal and such, does that mean that if you meet those requirements, you can just go remove it? You don't need to notify the county at all?
No, so the way, and this was kind of new. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, okay.
Yeah, no. So it was a little bit confusing. Basically, this is something that's already in the ordinance where if CAL FIRE or the community development director, who is the head, Steve Monowitz, specifically calls out a tree and says that it's a specific hazard, you don't need to do permits. So it's basically using that language already to make a blanket statement for those specific types of trees, saying that these kind of trees are just a hazard because of fire. So all of them can be removed. So the answer is no, you do not need to get a permit.
Great, thank you.
Okay, back to Said Young.
You know
Did you
what?
have
I'm
another
sorry.
question?
I forgot to lower my hand, but I will say that Sam Carr had been working on getting a coastside tree ordinance updated since I believe it was 2011. So this is really good news. Thank you so much for saying that, Lena. Bye.
I'll take credit for it.
Okay.
Next, Maureen Fleming. Maureen, you're on mute. If you'd like to speak, please unmute yourself. Okay, we'll go to Dan Haggerty.
Okay,
Oh, there you are. There you are,
my-
Maureen. Go ahead.
This is just a question for Lena. One side of my house does not have a water faucet outside. And it's always on my mind that if a fire did start, like I would be out of luck on that side of the house. So could something like a waiver be put in that you wouldn't need permits and fees to add an additional spigot outside the house?
That's a great question. I would definitely need to follow up because I know stuff revolving around water on the coast can be challenging, but I'm happy to find out more information if that's a possibility.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Back to Dan.
Yes, I just one more quick thing. Lena, I was hoping that Supervisor Horsley could possibly communicate with the DPW in regards to the removal of the eucalyptus trees and the medians in El Granada. I have concerns. I've talked with some community members. They agree that the concerns of the costs, there's only so much money, and the way that it's planned by DPW now to haul off all of the limbs, and then so you're paying for the trucking for that at premium rates, and then hauling in mulch, you're paying for trucking at premium rates, and all the CO2 ramifications of that. To seriously consider and revisit with CAL FIRE, I think that everybody would agree that the fire risk would be greater reduced if there were more trees and limbs removed, and the wood chips could, there's plenty of room there to stockpile the wood chips, even if it's in the temporary. I think everybody would appreciate a greater fire risk reduction and having more, you know, more limbs, more trees removed, spread out. You know, so that I'm hoping that Supervisor Horsley, and then, you know, if it's more wood chips left, then it'll be also additional cost savings to have to pay for less reseeding. Granted, you know, these wood chips would sit there and biodegrade over time, and maybe, you know, maybe in a year or so after the, I mean, we're walking into an extreme fire danger situation. So we just, I think everybody, I think the community would appreciate a greater reduction of fire fuel and having it on the ground.
Absolutely. And that's actually my mistake, because I know that right after our last MCC meeting, Kwa said that he was going to reach out to CAL FIRE to discuss that exact idea in more detail and see their take on it. And I just haven't followed up with Kwa since then, so I will, and I'll let you know what CAL FIRE said in response to the idea of leaving more wood chips to save more money.
Awesome. And thank you, Lena, for doing a great job. And thank you so much for, you know, everything. Thank you. All right.
Okay, great. Greg?
I wasn't going to make this comment at this time, but since Dan brought it up, I should mention that I've met with 2 groups of residents since the last meeting, and I just got an email minutes before the meeting. People also expressing concerns that $500,000 for the number of trees being removed seemed high, and they're wondering, you know, if the county's picking favored vendors instead of getting people who are really eager to do the work. You know, nobody really knows what the real cost should be, because you're in a neighborhood with houses and power lines, and how can you compare the size of the trees? But I just wanted to mention that a lot of the residents have said what Dan just said, that they're concerned that they should be getting a lot more money for a lot more value for the money being spent. Thanks.
Sure. And I kind of staggered when I heard that 10,000 per tree number too. And I think that what Kwa had said when I asked him why was that it's because they have to go with contractors with certain kinds of insurance, and that costs more. But I can get more detail. That's the short answer that I vaguely understood. And the other part is that I know that the contractor is someone that county parks contracts with regularly. And so the idea was to use them because it would be faster to implement. But again, it's a very simple understanding, and I can get more detail on both of those.
Okay, thank you, Lena.
Lena, is it possible for them to get competitive quotes from maybe 3 contractors?
Yes, it would just
open it up.
It absolutely is possible. And I think that the thought process was, if they did that, it would extend the process about a month to 3 months.
I don't know. I think it could be a lot quicker if they tried. Ask them about it, please. Thank you, Lena.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, sorry. One last thing in regards to the median eucalyptus trees, and that is, I think everybody would agree in the long run, the stumps should be removed, but in the immediate interim, maybe a lower priority if that could save costs and get more, limbs, trees removed, come back at a later date, or somehow just revisit how the stumps could be, dealt with. Thank you.
I wrote that down and I'll follow up with Paul.
Okay, I see Melinda McNaughton has her hand raised.
Hi, yeah, and I just wasn't sure if we're talking about the tree median right now for sure, but since you were, I just wanted to say that I thought it was a great idea to spread the chips out that are already from the trees that they're going to cut, because those will make great compost for the soil. I was speaking with the RCD and they actually had some great ideas about piling the wood chips on top of the stumps to help them compost as well. Also wondering if there's any funding, like when and how to get fire resistant native plants planted there as soon as they do the cutting.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, Melinda, for that. And I would say that we're kind of veering into agenda item number 4B, which is all about wildfire preparedness. And we will have an update from Len during that agenda item on some of these things, not necessarily the answers to these questions. So these are all good questions that Lena can take back to Quavo and get answered. And ultimately, I think CAL FIRE will probably weigh in on that too. But Lena, if you have a quick answer, go ahead, but then let's reserve any additional wildfire comments for that agenda item.
Yeah, I don't think I have an answer, but that's a good comment that I'll take back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melinda.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Lena? Okay, I don't see any, so thank you so much, Lena. I believe you'll be around during that agenda item as well. Great. So let's move on to comments from other government officials. Do we have Harvey from Half Moon Bay here?
Yeah, we have him.
Great. Hi there. Go ahead.
Right. Hello, MCC. I have some financial items and some public safety items. At the last city council meeting, we passed the budget for the next fiscal year. And I'm happy to report that financially, the city is in very good shape. We have substantial reserves, more than are required by our policy. And we're getting $1.2 million this year from the feds for COVID-related relief. So that's all for the good. We also passed money for what we're calling the Highway 1 North safety project and the East Side Trail, which is part of that. We have granted money for planning and design for that. If you're not familiar, there's going to be a traffic signal at Terrace Road. There's going to be a widening of the highway. There's going to be a much better bike and ped east side trail right alongside that. That's all in design right now and probably will be finished by 2023. We also passed money for the east side trail at the north end of town. That would be between Roosevelt Road and the northern boundary of the city in Miramar. And that would connect with the county's proposed east side trail. So there'll be one contiguous trail that goes all the way from Half Moon Bay all the way up north. And the nice thing about this part of the trail is it's going to have an extension into the El Granada Elementary School. So it will make it easier for students who ride their bikes or walk along that trail to get to school safely, and also ultimately for Half Moon Bay High School students to use that trail to get to the high school without having to cross any big highways. So that's all to the good. In terms of public safety, there's going to be a public safety subcommittee meeting tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And this is going to be our first in-person meeting. It's going to be at the library. And if you have any ideas, you want to contribute to the conversation about what we would like to do in terms of public safety in Half Moon Bay and ultimately Midcoast, you have to show up. It's not going to be recorded, unfortunately. But we welcome your attendance at the meeting. That would be at 5 o'clock. Lastly, sometime in early July, most likely July 6th, but the date hasn't been decided yet. There'll be a full council meeting to seek input from the entire community about public safety. We're hoping to have experts from various groups, Stanford, other cities that have contracted with other police agencies. And this should be a robust discussion about how we could implement new policing policies in Half Moon Bay. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Harvey. Claire, looks like you have a question.
I have two questions. One, I'm going to echo what Michelle just said in the chat, not you. What, no recording? In-person meeting with no hybrid option?
I was as amazed as you when I just found that out about 10 minutes ago. So I don't know what to say.
Okay. My other question is, when you start doing all this work on Highway 1, what kind of provisions are you going to make to make it so that we can get down the road?
I don't follow.
It's good. I think if they're going to be reconstructing Highway 1, widening it, putting other features in, that's going to take a little while, and it's going to really mess up the traffic. Do you have plans to mitigate that?
Well, Highway 1 is only going to be widened up to Grandview, so it's not a wholesale widening of the highway. I don't know of any specific mitigation measures, but you know, we have to work with Caltrans, and I assume they'll do the usual Caltrans things with signage and, if necessary, police officers to direct traffic, but I'm not aware of any specific measures.
Well, you may be aware of how long it takes to get from the Midcoast to Half Moon Bay, many days, many times of the day. And you could really assume that it's going to be much, much longer if they're digging up the street. And I hope that you can plan ahead for something that would make it a little bit more palatable. Nighttime work or something. Thank you for looking into
I'll
that.
certainly pass that on to the powers that be.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Harvey, and thanks, Claire, for that question. Next, I'll go to Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Harvey, for your report tonight. Question in regards to the traffic signal at Terrace. I'm assuming that there'll be a crosswalk there, and you know, you're going to have not only the light turning red on Highway 1 for cars to come out at Terrace to make a safe left turn, but you'll also have pedestrians, you know, hitting the button, and you know, when the pedestrian light for a crossing, that light turns red for, at least at Frenchman's Creek, it's about 30 seconds. And at Frenchman's Creek, you know, that when, you know, a lot of people go out, walk their dog and everything. So specifically, my question is, are you aware, has anybody on the city council or staff or Caltrans, has anybody brought up the option of having a pedestrian underpass at that location, which would allow for, you know, 100% free movement of pedestrians? They wouldn't have to wait for a green light. the cars would not have to wait. Kind of piggybacking a little bit on Claire, wouldn't have to back up during while pedestrians are crossing. It would be a free. I ride my bike down to Half Moon Bay all the time, and it'd be really nice to be able to, if my destination is, let's say, New Leaf, I'd like to be on the east side of Highway 1, and I'd rather not interfere with the intersection at Highway 1 and Main Street by crossing there. I'd like to go under the highway, and I think a lot of other people. I think it would be very beneficial for the overall flow. 100% safety for pedestrians. Impossible to get hit by a car if you're you're undergrade. A lot of times people on the surface, they think, a crosswalk with a light, that's safer, but no, it's not. People still get hit by cars, even in a signaled crosswalk. So has anybody, to your knowledge, has anybody brought up this concept?
In a word, no. The design is pretty much complete. It's kind of late. If you want to compare that traffic signal with Frenchman's Creek, one of the better things is that Caltrans really requires that that there be 4 lanes to have a traffic signal. The Frenchman's Creek signal was done as an emergency measure and doesn't really meet Caltrans standards for how wide the highway has to be, and consequently there's big slowdown there that shouldn't be there. So this doesn't solve the pedestrian problem, but I'm hoping that the traffic flow at this new signal will be better than it is now, where the road really necks down without a widening of the highway. But it's a problem. I don't deny that traffic on Highway 1 north of Half Moon Bay is very slow, and I don't see it getting much faster, but we're trying to make sure it stays at least the way it is now.
So the pedestrians crossing at Frenchman's Creek, the timing is at about 30 seconds, and that's 2 lanes. So the pedestrian crossing, red light being on Highway 1 at Terrace, if there's the additional 2 extra lanes, now we're talking about a period of time of red light for Highway 1 for probably 45, 50 seconds. Do you know what the plan is? I mean, how long the light's going to be red for when a pedestrian crosses? It's a long walk.
No, I agree, and I'm reasonably certain they're going to have a median, a safety island, so that you only have to cross 2 lanes at a time.
Okay, well, that's a positive. All right, thank you, Harvey.
You're certainly welcome, Dan.
Doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next to Sid Young.
Sorry. Hi, Harvey.
Hi, Sid.
I've mentioned it before to you personally, and I don't know if it just stays with you or if you've ever brought it up, but since they mentioned the Frenchman's Creek light, is if you're approaching from the south, heading north, you cannot see the light because of those 2 giant eucalyptus trees there down in the ditch. And I've often mentioned that they should at least lift the skirts on those trees by trimming the branches back. But more recently, I've noticed that there's road signs in the way blocking the view of the light, the traffic signal, and also the trunks of the trees are in the way now. I don't know if those trees are in the Caltrans right away, but it would be a great time to try to get them trimmed back, because that part of the highway bends right there. And it's also dark because of the trees on the other side of the road where the park is. I guess it's a park. And and the fact that the trees shade the road right there, whereas leading up to it and from either direction, it's pretty open at Dunes Beach and also at the, Kehoe area. So can you bring it up? I don't know if you've ever mentioned it, but
Yeah, I can. And you could also send your suggestion to John Dowdy, our Department of Public Works.
okay.
That is in Caltrans right away. There's no doubt about it. But sometimes we can light a fire in them to do the right thing.
Okay, and the second question I had for you was when you announced the public safety meeting, is that in regards to evacuation routes, or is that just to do with the possible appointment of a Half Moon Bay police person to kind of intercede with or intervene with the sheriffs? Or is it both?
It's policing issue.
Okay. Okay. You said safety, so I wasn't quite sure.
No,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Are they going to have anything about evacuation? Because they didn't put it in their local coastal update, LUP or whatever it's called.
As a separate matter, not related to what's on the agenda that I mentioned, the city is completing its emergency operations plan,
Okay,
which
good.
will include information about evacuation. So that's coming in a month or two.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Sid. And next, Dave Olson.
Just a quick note for anybody with safety issues or maintenance issues of any kind on Highway 1, Caltrans has a website where you can file requests. And if you file a request on their website and say it's a safety issue, they're usually pretty quick to get out there and take care of it. We have a link to it on the MCC webpage. So I strongly encourage using that route to get those kinds of issues taken care of.
Thanks, Dave. It would be great if you could post that question or that link on the chat if you have easy access to it.
I will do that in a moment.
Thank you. Okay, we got to try to move forward, but I see we have one more question for Harvey. It looks like from Fran Pollard.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Fran.
Hi. Actually, it's for Lena. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Lena, are you still there?
I'm in the middle of chewing my dinner, but I'm ready to listen.
Okay. Well, I heard you say, and maybe I missed it, but I heard you say you don't need permits to cut the trees, but that doesn't mean that, I mean, are there rules about people cutting trees? I could just see some guys probably deciding to cut their own trees.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern that was discussed. I don't have an exact answer to that right now. I wasn't in the highly logistic discussion about this, but I'm sure that information will be available latest by Friday, and I'll make sure that the MCC has it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I see that Catherine, I'm assuming that's Catherine Slater Carter has her hand raised. Are you looking to speak as a government official tonight?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
For both Sam and Montero Water and Sanitary, the budgets were passed in most recent meetings. Whoops, now I don't know what I've done. Anyway, I'll just keep talking. And at MWSD at the last meeting, we announced we are going to be having our Elected Community Service Academy on July 28th, 2001. 6:30 to 8:30. It's going to be a Zoom meeting, and we're going to have a total of 3 of these meetings to introduce people to the concept of what it takes and how to become an elected representative of your community. The first one will be about the roles and responsibilities of elected leaders. The second will be all about candidate filing and campaign requirements. And the third will be about the election calendar. So again, Academy number 1 online is about the roles and responsibilities of elected leaders. And we welcome everyone to join us to learn about how to become an elected leader and represent your community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Do we have any other government officials who'd like to speak? Okay, I don't see any, so we're going to move on to item 2, which is public comment and announcements. I'll remind people that this is public comment on items not on tonight's agenda, so not related to the Harbor District, wildfire preparedness, or the MCC meeting format. Each person will have up to 3 minutes, but we are already running a little bit late on our agenda, so I'd ask to try to keep it short. And first, oh yeah, and it looks like most people know how to raise their hand, but just as a reminder, if you don't know how to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting, there are a few places you can find it. If you're on your desktop, you can go to the reactions tab at the bottom, and there's a little raise hand button above there for most people. If you don't find it there, it should be on the right side of your screen under the participants list. If you're on a mobile phone, in the Zoom app, it's on the More tab, and if you're dialing in just from your phone, then it would be *9. Okay, first we're going to go to Ann Martin.
Okay, thank you and good evening. I wanted to bring to the MCC's attention a planning violation that's been outstanding for 4 years that is having a significant impact on public safety, including fire safety here in East Miramar. I live in East Miramar on the street just below the Miramar water tank. It's called Miramar Drive. Across the street is an undeveloped lot owned by a developer, TEG Partners. In 2017, TEG installed a fence on their lot. The county notified the fence that it was illegal because it's on an empty lot. TEG never completed the application for a coastal development permit, but continued to delay, protest, and demand meetings. In 2019, the county decided that even though there was a violation, since there is no threat to public health or safety, no additional enforcement action would be pursued. However, in September of 2020, the county was put on notice that there's a significant threat to public safety. We've learned through a Public Records Act request that in September 2020, CAL FIRE sent an email to Deputy County Development Director Lisa Azosa that the fire truck access to the residents at 655 Miramar Drive with this fence in place makes it difficult, if not nearly impossible, to access that residence in a reasonable time, if at all. In October of 2020, a family with 2 young children purchased and moved into that home. The illegal fence would make it difficult, if not impossible, for CAL FIRE to access not just that residence, but also the developer's empty lot and the acres of open space on top of that ridge if a fire were to break out. Although county planning has been aware of this hazard, they have taken no action for 9 months to have this fence removed. We're asking the MCC for help, requesting that this violation be enforced without further delay. Anything you can do to help us, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Anne, thank you so much for that. We can't respond directly to that right now, but really appreciate you bringing that to the MCC. Next, we will move on to Genevieve.
Actually, I had my hand up for that item.
During public comment, we don't respond to each other. I'm just going to go down the list in the order of the hands raised. So I'm going to go to Genevieve next and said, raise your hand and we'll get to you later.
Thanks, Michelle. So my name for everyone is Genevieve Warts-Michelle. I'm actually a neighbor of Ann Martin's. I'm going to not repeat what she said, but I also want to have a few additional statements around this illegal fence and just point out that while Ann and I are talking tonight, there's actually 11 neighbors in this surrounding neighborhood who are all very deeply concerned about the fire hazard that this fence poses. For those of us who are not familiar with this vacant lot and this the location, the lot 655 Miramar and the Miramar tank are all located on a very high wildfire hazard zone. Further up the hill from these parcels, there's acres of undeveloped open space. And this road that goes up to 655 Miramar is the only access point that provides access to the lot, to 655 Miramar and the water tank, and then this open space that goes beyond that. So this illegal fence creates a very dangerous choke point on this access road. And since if a fire were to break out in any of these areas, as Ann said, it would impede fire trucks from quickly accessing the fire. While it's up at a high point, all of these eucalyptus that are in place are going to light up and burn towards Highway 1, and the entire Miramar Terrace neighborhood would be impacted. As you all know, we're dealing with a wildfire season that's anticipated to be unprecedented, and seconds are going to matter and will make a huge difference from saving our families and our homes. Moreover, from delaying a fire truck from reaching further up the hill, even a 10 to 15 seconds is going to matter for the 8 families that live in this neighborhood. So we are terrified of a fire breaking out on the hill, the open space beyond. It's happened historically in the past. And so under these circumstances, and in light of the CAL FIRE warning, the fence poses really just an unacceptable fire hazard for our neighborhood. And we're urging the county to remove it ASAP. We're asking for your help and guidance on what we can do to help get this fence violation enforced. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Genevieve. And again, while I can't respond directly, it's something that we can discuss in our future agenda section at the end of the meeting. Next, we'll go to Crystalline from the Half Moon Bay Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you so very much. I just wanted to let everybody know that we have opened our Business Resource Center. It's something that we've been working on for quite a while, and we've added a link to our website where people can go onto hmbcosidechamber.com and request a business consultation appointment. So if you're starting a business or you've run into a bump in the road on your business, it's totally free, and to come in and chat with us, and we can help provide you or point you in the direction of the resources that best meet your needs. And then our office is on Main Street, Half Moon Bay, and people are more than welcome to pop by and check us out. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Chrislyn. If you want to go ahead and put a link to that in the chat so that people can easily access it. Okay, next we'll go to Matt Show.
Hi, my name is Matt Shao. I am also going to echo the comments made by Ann Martin and Genevieve Wurtzman. I also live in East Miramar. I am an attorney. I've lived there for about 10 years. And in addition to the fire danger pointed out by Ann and Genevieve, I would also like to point out that this illegal fence poses significant traffic safety issues in that it makes it essentially impossible for work trucks and other vehicles that are servicing the water tank. These are coastside water vehicles. These are delivery vehicles to the property beyond the developer's lot, as well as the cell phone towers. So they're on top of the tank. The coastside water has leased this tank to cell phone companies. So we have all of this traffic going up there, these large trucks, and because they can't turn around because of this illegal fence, they have to back down a 21% grade road for almost 3/4 of a football field. The end of the road is at an intersection with 4 streets. There are 7 young children in the neighborhood. They're playing, and it's just an accident waiting to happen. Over the last months, we've noted numerous work trucks servicing the water district, for example, as well as even lost visitors driving backwards down the road. And the traffic has increased even more since the water district has leased the tank for cell phone towers. So again, we are asking that not only does this illegal fence that the county has violated and Coastside Fire has pointed out prevents fire trucks from accessing the property beyond. And not only is it a fire hazard, but it is also a public safety hazard. And anything that the MCC can do to help us, we would greatly appreciate. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Matt, for coming to our meeting and expressing your concern. Next, we'll go to Sid. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm still unmuted. Sorry. I just want to point out that per the fire marshal, there's a code that says that there have to be minimum requirements for safe turnaround for adequate access for emergency equipment, including civilian evacuation, so that they can have unobstructed traffic circulation. And I've been up to that road where the water tank is, and you basically would have to back down because of the way the other property owner constructed that fence. So if they didn't have a centerline turning radius for emergency apparatus of 35 feet, they're in violation. I really do hope the MCC will write a letter and maybe CC the county council on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Next, Dick Martin.
Good evening. I live at 620 Miramar Drive as well, and want to piggyback onto other comments. One of the main thing, we talked a lot earlier about the trees down in Granada and removing those eucalyptus trees. And when we had the fire last summer, and when we could all see the fire coming up from Pescadero, the way it's would travel, I think, would not through town, but go around and up over the hill and be right here where we're talking about. So having somebody can get up there and break the fire between there and on into Granada is another reason for being concerned about this. So please take this forward and see what you can do to help us out. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dick. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak during the public comment period? Or any announcements from members of the council? Okay, I don't see anything else, so we're going to move on to the next item, which is the consent agenda. We do need to pull item 3C from the consent agenda, which is the annual treasurer's report, because normally that item includes a bank statement from the end of June. So we prematurely put that on the consent agenda, and I'm requesting we pull it off. So the consent agenda only includes item A and B, which are the minutes from February 24th, which is, I thought last week we actually caught, our last meeting, we caught up with all the minutes that we had missed, but this was one remaining. And so that has been published on the website since yesterday. We also have the minutes of June 9th, our last meeting. Does any
motion to approve the consent agenda?
Thank you, Dan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Greg seconds. Dave, can you please take a roll? Yes. Sorry, Jill, go ahead.
I want to flip June 9th to the next meeting because I haven't had a chance to even look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can ask that it be delayed to later in the meeting. You can't ask that it be pulled to another meeting without a vote. So you'll have to make a motion if you want to move to the next meeting.
We also had a previous.
And the June 9th minutes have been published since June 10th. So there's really no reason you couldn't have reviewed them.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
We had a previous council member who, if he hadn't read the minutes, would just abstain.
Okay.
Yeah, that's always a choice.
Okay. So Jill, did you want to make a motion, or do you want us to move ahead to a vote?
I'll just abstain. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so Dave, please call the roll for a vote on approving the minutes, the consent agenda, including minutes from February 24th and June 9th.
Claire,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Abstain.
Lynn,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
and I'm also yes, so it passes 6-0, one abstention.
Thank you. And just a reminder, Dave, it looks like some of the meetings from minutes from previous meetings are still in draft on the website. If you could go in there and update those once you have the final version.
Yes, I didn't get to those, sorry.
No problem. Okay, so we're going to move on to our regular agenda. The first item on the regular agenda is the Harbor District Master Plan. And we have Jim Pruitt who's the general manager of the San Mateo County Harbor District here, and he is going to present. So Jim, welcome.
Thank you for the welcome. If with your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, you should be able to now.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Confirming that you can see the whole slide.
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Good evening once again. And on behalf of the Board of Harbor Commissioners, thank you for providing me time to share with you the current activities with respect to the development of our master plan and provide an update on current projects. It's an exciting time to be here at the Harbor District with multiple projects coming to fruition. Let me find the right button. It's not letting me move my slide. There we go. Again, my name is Jim Pruitt. I've been with the Harbor District for about 18 months now, but I have connections with the Coast Guard dating back to the early 70s when my family operated a business out of Pillar Point Harbor. And I can still remember like yesterday, running up and down Johnson Pier as a kid and fishing off the breakwater. They're very cherished memories for me. Also online with me tonight is Madeline Murray from Dudak Consultants, the consultant helping us with development of our master plan. Tonight, I'll discuss briefly the former master plan, our current master plan initiative, a brief overview of the amazing activities of the Harbor District. The current master plan on file was completed in November of 1991. It was a great document at the time of production, but as the time has passed, the plan is now obsolete and out of date. It doesn't address sea level rise, water quality, new regulations, or changing requirements in the Harbor District or the marina. A new new master plan is required to encompass those. The Harbor District's entering into this master plan process with the understanding the purpose of the master plan is to provide a dynamic long-term planning document that provides a conceptual framework to guide future growth and development while ensuring the proper maintenance and repair of existing facilities. The master plan is all about making the connections between the buildings, the infrastructure, the assets, the resources, the fiscal resources, the social settings, and the surrounding environment to serve San Mateo County to the best of our abilities and as resources will allow. The outcomes and benefits the Harbor District expects to achieve through the master planning process is consistency in decision-making. The master plan will take the direction and goals provided by the Harbor District Strategic Plan and provide the district with a steady point of reference for taking action, allowing for an integrated systems approach. The ability to make informed decisions. The master plan provides facts on existing conditions of structures and assets, details trends and requirements, enables staff to develop comprehensive and integrated staff reports and recommendation, which will provide the board with improved documentation and information to better understand the impact of their decisions. Achieve predictability. The master plan will describe where and what type of development and infrastructure and improvements are needed to meet the community needs and desires in accordance with our strategic plan. It allows for and promotes wise use of resources. The plan includes information on the current condition of district's infrastructure, resources, and potential funding. The board can use this information in deciding prioritization, which projects and undertakes projects such as the Johnson Pier renovation project, replacement of the floating docks at Pillar Point Harbor, the utility upgrades required on Johnson Pier, and improved access to docks 1 through 6 at Oyster Point Marina, or as a document for applying and backing up our applications for grants to support harbor activities. The master plan also preserves the district's character. The plan will take in and describe the district's vision for the future and document existing and intended growth. It permits the district community to identify what is important and how it should be protected. And finally, produce positive economic development. The master plan provides a stable vision of the future, which can be planned out. It will assist in improving the facilities, which in turn will have a positive impact on the economic growth of the harbors in the marina. The current several significant steps have already taken place in the development of the master plan. First, on February 17th, 2021, the Harbor Board approved the execution of a professional service agreement with DUDAC, a multidisciplinary environmental and engineering firm, to assist the district in developing a master plan. Next, the comprehensive facility surveys and inspections have already been completed for district assets. The reports for both Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina and Park can be found at our website at smharbor.com for reference. I encourage everybody interested in the harbor to review those and provide input. DUDAC has also made several key leader engagements from the coast side as well as the county and South San Francisco, gaining their insight and recommendations on the future of the harbor district. A survey has also been developed and can be completed online. We ask that everyone with an interest in the harbor complete the survey. Survey responses will be critical to the development of the master plan. The survey can be located, it's completed online at our webpage at smharbor.com. Pop-up events with DUDAC representatives, engaged users of the facilities, both at Pillar Point Harbor and OPM, have already taken place. DUDAC interacted with the public to inform them of the purpose and intent of the master plan and sought their feedback. This information, feedback will be gained during the pop-up events, will be integrated into the master plan process. Our next step is to host the first of 3 public workshops, with the first being on July 13th. It will be hosted on the Zoom platform to ensure access for everyone. The workshop will be based on an information gained through the condition surveys, key leader engagements, opinion surveys, and the pop-up events. The agenda for that workshop has already been posted on our website, and the meeting again is from 6 to 8 p.m. The second public workshop is scheduled for August 10th, and then a final workshop will be scheduled late this fall with the goal of completing the master plan by February 2022. A point I would like to stress is the master plan will be in line with the district's strategic plan. The Harbor Board adopted the strategic plan in December of 2019. The top 2 goals of that plan state comprehensive long-range planning guides, directs actions and decision makings of the district, and infrastructure improvements are guided by comprehensive long-term planning. This master plan will provide the tools required to achieve both of these stated goals. And then the ask. The Harbor District asks that request that each of you be engaged in our process and provide feedback and encourage others to do the same. As representatives of the coast side, your opinions as to the direction of the Harbor District is very valuable to ensure alignment with surrounding communities. Again, the surveys can be found on our website at smharbor.com. Current activities and projects of the Harbor District. In addition to, and will also be considered as we develop the master plan, there's a lot of activity at the Harbor District with several projects breaking ground this year, or scheduled to break ground anyway. The first one I want to speak to is the Surfers Beach Replenishment Project. The breakwater installed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers around Pillar Point Harbor in 1961 has interrupted the normal flow of sand from the north to the south. This has resulted in much of the sand at the north end of Surfers Beach being washed out without replacement. The Surfers Beach Replacement Project would artificially restore the natural progress of to the south. As you can see on this slide here, on the red portion on Surfers Beach is the area in which this new sand will be deposited. It's labeled sand replacement area. As a side benefit or part of this project, the district will also have to address the eelgrass beds in the harbor, indicated by green on this slide. Areas of the harbor that have been inundated with sand are now at a depth perfect for eelgrass growth. In order to dredge those areas and recover the clean fill placed on Surfers Beach, the district is required to mitigate the effect on the eelgrass. Our current plan is to replant the eelgrass in the southwest corner out towards the outer breakwater near Mavericks Beach. It is our hope to begin the mitigation project by spring 2022, and we are on track to do so. Surfers Beach Restroom and Green Space Project. This project will provide several upgrades to the area located north end of Surfers Beach, and this is located currently in the RV park. One of the upgrades includes a public restroom built to meet all ADA requirements, so it will be fully accessible to all users on the coast side. It also includes outdoor showers, bike racks, and additional ADA parking, which will allow easier access to the coastal trail and to view the coast and the ocean. We'll also improve the coastal trail through this area. It'll provide additional seating and benches to be able to view the coast and watch the surfers, and dedicated parking for surf schools and other groups to pick up and drop off customers and kids. And finally, the project will provide a small green space, public green space, where currently is a parking lot. This project is in the final stages of permitting and will be a great improvement to the area that will benefit all users. The next project I'd like to discuss is the Catch Joanne Harbor Restaurant and Harbor Bar ADA restroom project. The district is in the final design, engineering, and permitting of a brand new ADA restroom at the restaurant. This will be a significant improvement to all visitors to the harbor and providing fully accessible restrooms for those visitors. This project is currently in the permitting phase and is on schedule to be completed by the end of the year. Water quality is another project that we're working on. As most of you are aware, the implementation of the TMDL rules, or water quality rules for the beaches at Pillar Point Harbor, will be implemented later this year. In anticipation of the rules and as a good citizens of the coast side, the district, in coordination with RCD, has been very active in improving water quality within the harbor for the past several years. We have cleaned, repaired, or replaced as necessary all the stormwater system in the harbor. We have cleared the bird guano off the fish buying building at the end of Johnson Pier, where thousands of seagulls rest, with all their guano entering the harbor. We now clean that once a quarter and have a new drainage system to prevent or slow down the guano from entering the harbor. We sealed an improper connection to the stormwater system that was allowing contaminants to enter the system and drain onto Capistrano Beach. We confirmed the sewage system within the harbor is leak-free. We did smoke testing and other testing measures to ensure that. We provide free pump out service for all boats or vessels within the harbor for their sewage and their bilge water, and engage in a Scoop the Poop campaign to limit the dog waste entering the stormwater system. Our next step is to seek and integrate other partners in the area to improve the runoff from the watersheds and reduce the bacterial load entering the harbor. And the Harbor District has again engaged the RCD to assist us with achieving this goal. The West Trail project is a project that's been going on for many years. The West Trail project is it's only safe. It's the only safe access to the outer breakwater of the Mavericks Beach and the outer breakwater area. It's falling into the harbor. It has eroded to the point where emergency vehicles are challenged to get to the end of the trail for rescue. The project has statewide interest as we are implementing a novel idea to curb beach erosion through the use of rebuilding a living shoreline versus the area riprap, or filling the area with riprap. When complete, the area will have a new natural beach, a plant berm, and a new and improved trail that will provide safe and easy access to the Mavericks Beach area. We're looking forward to breaking ground on this project in the very near future. The Life Ring project is a brand new project for us, it's a result of a tragic loss. On January 18th of this year, we lost RNA Pruthi, a 12-year-old boy visiting the coast with his family. RNA was swept out to sea by a sneaker wave at Cow Ranch State Beach. One fact that many of us don't realize or don't know is that when RNA was swept out to sea, he slowly floated out into the surf with his family unable to assist. His family and bystanders were trying to use anything they could find to make a rope to throw out to him, including a tent, which they rolled up and tried to turn into a rope. None of this was successful, and RNA lost his life. This was truly a tragic event for the entire coast side. And it was a repeatable event with several other deaths in the area in the recent years. One thing I want to show is a video of a sneaker wave at Mavericks Beach, if I can get it to play. I think it's important to notice that the waves aren't huge. They're not crashing on the beach. It's just a normal day there, and you would feel safe walking along that water. And then on the right of the screen, you'll see the water coming in. That's not a large wave you think you should run from. That's Mavericks Beach. It's crossing over into the harbor right now, washing over the breakwater and catching all those people and those dogs off guard, knocking some of them to their feet, to the ground and into the harbor itself. Luckily, nobody was injured in this activity, but the volume of water that came in and affected that family knocked them off. And you saw those two people jump up next to the sign. That's a very large red sign put there by the Army Corps of Engineers warning them of high surf warnings and to be careful. Following the loss of RNA, Mr. Eric Jones of Sea Valor, working with RNA's parents to ensure this never happens to another family, developed the idea of a life-saving station. As you can see in the photo, the stations come with a single life buoy with a 100-foot line attached. It also has written warnings about sneaker waves in 13 separate languages. If this station was installed at Cal State Ranch Beach on January 18th, RNA may have had a chance. Sea Valor organization and the RNA Foundation approached the Harbor District on seeking ideas on how to get these stations installed along the coastside. The district on May 19th approved the installation of 4 stations in and around Pillar Point Harbor. As indicated by the blue dots on this slide, we're working towards installing 4 of these life-saving stations, 1 on Mavericks Beach itself, 1 by the outer breakwater in Mavericks Beach, and then the other 2 towards the breakwater near Surfers Beach on the other side of the harbor. We are currently working with the Coastal Commission for the appropriate permits and authorization to install these life-saving stations. Once installed, and we demonstrate the value of these life-saving stations, it's the district's intent to encourage and work with other local communities on the coast side to install these life-saving stations up and down the San Mateo coast from Pacifica through down to Pigeon Point. As much of that area is an area of responsibility the harbor takes up for search and rescue. And the last project is the replacement of docks 12, 13, and 14 at Oyster Point Marina. The current docks are past their useful life and no longer fit the needs of the marina. We hope to have all 3 docks replaced in 2022. We're in the final stages of design and permitting process. Pending any questions, that's my presentation, and I want to thank you again for allowing me time to brag about the district.
Thank you, Jim. We're so happy to have you here and to hear about all the updates that you're doing in the harbor. Sounds like there is a lot going on. I actually did paste your link to both your website and the survey for Pillar Point into our chat so that people can easily access that. And I'm going to start by going around to members of the council for questions, and then we'll move on to any public questions. So if any members of the council, rather than just going around, please go ahead and raise your hand. Anyone can go ahead and raise their hand if they have questions right now, but I'm going to start with members of the council. So I will start with Dan Haggerty.
Yeah, thank you, Jim, for your report tonight. Thank you very much. So sad, the story about that young man. So as far as the overall plan, you've given some spots, and I'm wondering, well, number one, you know, as far as kind of something, a written outline of everything that you've covered tonight. I think that some projects in the future are unknown for right now, but what is known, is that all available like in a spreadsheet or something as far as you know, what you covered tonight?
All those projects are highlighted and documented in our 21-22 budget, which the board passed this month and approved those projects for funding. And so the projects themselves have been approved by the board, and then funding those projects have been approved by the board. So we're moving forward on all those projects. The projects I discussed and the board funded are projects that we anticipate will be either begun or completed by the end of this year.
I was just thinking in a and an idea to allow the community to understand what's going on with the Harbor District. So I would encourage, if it's possible, to have some type of a report, spreadsheet, or however you want to develop it, so that the community can go in and see kind of what's going on. And as far as some of your comments throughout your presentation, I had a comment about you talked about economic development within the harbor, and I just wanted to make the quick comment that I think overall that's a good direction, but keep in mind that I think a lot in the community and visitors, if it's overdone, the results could damage the current pristine environment that's existing and that people love so much. We don't want the tragedy of the commons. We don't want something that is overdeveloped and then we lose what everybody truly loves today. So that's one thought. And then also, I'll talk to you on the side. I'll come to your office, but I wanted to say, in regards to the sand replenishment, everybody knows that, or it's heard that, that there's nobody really knows how quick the sand will get washed away. There is something I brought up months ago. There's technology. It's called Sand Saver. It's a barrier that kind of holds the sand, and I'll talk to you more about details of that. And I hope it's not too late to consider at least a small portion of the project to at least so that we can compare, what works and what doesn't work. I don't think it's going to be the first time that there will be sand replenishment, and we all know that there's a great cost in this, and we'd like to see, however possible, as much sand could be saved at the beach and not washed away. So I'm hoping that you're open for a meeting with me to give you a little bit more details on and direct you to the manufacturers and get any questions that you have, and hopefully can be presented to the Coastal Commission as a trial basis, at least in some portion.
Thank you very much. If Michelle, if I can address his comments real quick.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, then with respect to overbuilding the harbor with commercial activities, one of the goals and benefits or outcomes of the master plan, as I discussed, was to preserve the district's character. And we're going to need input from the community on preserving the district's character. One of the biggest things we're concerned about, or I personally want to make sure is addressed in that master, is increasing the business aspect of a commercial fishing harbor and supporting the fishermen. So that's also in there, not just restaurants and stores. So that business development is for the fishing industry also. With respect to the wave itineraries or sand keepers, I saw the presentation on those and I got the documentation on it. We did approach the Coastal Commission on an unofficial basis just to discuss them. And the biggest hurdle we're going to have with those is they're considered hard armoring, and hard armoring on the coast side is extremely disfavored, and it'd be very difficult. But I'm very open to discussing it with you again and meeting with you, and I'm in the office most days.
Thank you very much, Jim. Doing a great job.
All right, thank you. Next, I'll go to Jill Grant.
Sorry, I wasn't ready. Thanks, Jim. Great presentation. And I am very excited about seeing all these projects start up. I want to know if there's a lighting plan for the exterior lighting for the bathroom at the RV park by Surfers Beach.
It's integrated with the current planning and architectural design. So yes, lighting is a significant concern of ours to make sure that one, we don't create more light pollution in that area. And second, don't create light pollution going into the water to affect the wildlife in that area, but provide enough lighting for safety. So we're definitely looking at amber lighting, shields, and everything we can to do that. My past job, I'm very familiar with the lighting issues on the coast. And if I was able to shield and properly shield and operate a lighthouse to prevent light pollution coming onto the coast and hitting the beach for the turtles and all the residential houses on that the Coast Guard used to operate. So I'm very familiar with the lighting challenges, and we're attacking those now, not only at the new RV park, but also at the harbor itself.
Is there a way for us to see the lighting plan before it's installed, or no?
All that will be made public. So yes, we'll definitely post it, and I'll let the commission know when it's available.
And one last thing, Jim, I don't know if you're aware, but in early 2020, the residents of El Granada had a big issue with the RV park lighting of their sign. They put in a really bright light, and the residents complained. It went on for months, and finally Brittany Cozzolino from Half Moon Bay Planning, she got them to take the light and lower it, and it was beautiful, but it did take months and months. So
we'll be operating, we're operating under the approved coastal development permit, which requires the lighting, or puts in lighting requirements. And both the tenant who operates the RV park and the harbor district will be complying with that.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Great, and thanks, Jill, for those questions. Next, I'll go to Claire.
Jim, thank you very much. I'm very impressed. There's a lot going on, and I'm happy that there's a lot going on the coast as opposed to just in the other location. Just a couple of really quick questions or comments. One about the sand replacement. The eelgrass sounds like it's going to interfere with dredging more sand out of the harbor. Is that correct?
There's eelgrass that has grown on the areas that have gone shallow. So in order to be able to dredge those areas, we need to remove that eelgrass and replant it elsewhere and mitigate the damage to the eelgrass at another place in the harbor. So we'll base the end of the day is we're taking one eelgrass bed and moving it to another location.
Okay, that'll take a little while. I think there's a lot of sand at the airport right now. Is that sand intended to be put on the surface beach area?
That sand is clean sand and was taken from the emergency dredging we had to do for our launch ramps. We woke up one morning and they were sitting on a big pile of sand after a storm. And all that sand right now is scheduled to be used as clean fill for the West Trail project.
Okay, okay. The other thing I was a little confused about was what you referred to as the new RV park. And you're describing the restroom area and all the improvements you're going to make, which look really nice. But I'm not clear if the status of the RV park will change in any way, or where the parking that you're anticipating is going to go.
Right now, the area in which this new restroom and green space is going is a paid parking lot there at the Pillar Point RV lot at the breakwater next to Surfers Beach. That's where it's gonna go. We're adding 8 additional parking spots for ADA access, and then 2 EV stations for electric vehicles. The RV park will be reduced. I believe it's 6 spaces, and I'm not sure on that, but they are reducing the number of spaces of RVs to allow us to put the parking in those RV spaces.
Okay, good to know. That's news to me and maybe to Claire as well. I'm not sure if we still have Claire. I see she turned off her camera.
She's still there. She's muted.
Okay.
No,
There-
thank you very
and-
much.
Okay, great. Okay, so next, Len Erickson.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for a really good presentation on the harbor. To follow up on what you just said about the RV park that's currently there. So you're saying it's getting a net 6 spaces taken away. Will the current parking in that area remain the same, or will the facilities you showed reduce the current parking that are non-handicapped?
That parking lot where it exists now, to the left of the driveway when you're pulling into the RV park will disappear. We're going to put, that's where the green space in the RV park or the restroom will go. Along the side of it and on the waterfront will be all ADA parking spots. So people will be able to easily access to the facilities and also the coastal trail. And then the area just to the right, when you drive in along the fence line, those RV spots will be converted to traditional parking spots for visitors of Surfers Beach or whoever comes in there, to include 2 EV stations.
Okay, so continuing with the RVs, what about the lot in the main parking area, which was used for fishermen to park RVs there on a limited basis? What's the status? I think that's lot C.
Lot C was used for an RV park for the fishermen for many decades. But they're really, the parking lot is just that, it's a parking lot. It doesn't really support RVs. There's no facilities there. So, and it was installed or implemented decades ago without a coastal development permit. As such, we've closed that park down. So RV parking is no longer allowed in that lot at this moment. We are looking at the possibility of putting back limited RV parking there for the fishermen, because the crab fishermen and the salmon fishermen, their crews need somewhere to stay. And some of them use those RVs. Right now they can't, but we are going to look into possibly reestablishing that. But that's definitely several years down the road due to the infrastructure needs of what would be required to put our RV park there. And the district simply doesn't have the funding right now. But I have been directed to look into the possibility.
Okay, so RVs, I assume, will still be allowed to stay on a day use basis to park there, but they'll have to leave at the end of the day?
They can come in and park for day use, but again, it's just a parking lot. So we're not allowing them in the past where they had barbecues out and open fires and taking up lots of parking spaces, but there's no regulation or law that would prevent them from coming in and parking for the day or a couple hours.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Len. And then Greg Diegues.
Jim, I have a number of questions that I don't think the whole public is going to be interested in. So I've got your email and I will mail them to you. But there is one thing that I think is on everybody's mind. And so I want to ask about it, which is the 1,200-year drought that we appear to be in. So my question is, what are the water supply requirements for the projects you're undertaking? And what's the supply for those? In particular, is there anything about what you're doing that's going to increase the net use of water in the harbor?
I'll have to look into that a little bit deeper and get back to you on that. But most of the projects I spoke of today, I don't see it as having a large impact on water resources or water demand, with the exception of the additional restroom that we have at Surfers Beach. So a restroom would, actually 4 restrooms would cause increased water demand for those restrooms, is the only thing I think of.
Okay. Those are all the questions I see from members of the council. So we'll move to members of the public. And I see Sid Young has her hand raised. Please go ahead, Sid.
Hi, that was a great presentation. Thank you. I went a long time ago, before you were involved with the Harbor District, to a meeting called Plan Princeton, and the overwhelming response of all the people that attended, except some of the developers that were in a little cabal in the back, was to keep the harbor as a, funky working harbor and not turn it into a mini Monterey. So I guess that would be the main concern, not just by me, but I know Dan was at that meeting and quite a few people expressed that concern. I don't think they ever did get around to rezoning Princeton, but that was the upshot of it at one point. My other question is, I've been waiting for those public toilets to be installed, because there's been quite a bit of back and forth with the current lessor of the RV park. And he locked the public restrooms originally, in spite of his lease saying that he was supposed to leave them open. So I have two questions for you. What's the timeline to when they're going to be installed and operable? And the other question is, since that same person who leases that space from you guys right now to manage it is developing his own super duper RV park up at the harbor at Capistrano near Harbor Village, will he be allowed to still maintain his so-called management of that lot? Or are you going to open it up for bids to manage that new lot? I mean, the existing RV lot.
The existing RV lot near Surfers Beach he's under a lease, still has several years on. So would not be asking for or soliciting new bids to operate that RV park.
Will it automatically renew, or will you at that time when it is renewable offer other people an opportunity to do a better job?
When the lease is up, which again is several years from now, we could the board at that time will look at that and make that decision. But right now, it's not being considered because it's just not a ripe or not time to think about that yet.
Yeah, I guess the concern is that once the new fancier RV lot is up and running, just not too many yards away down the highway, that with the 30-day maximum stay, that they'll just flip-flop back and forth between the two parks if it's the same owner. So I mean, lessor, well, one would be an owner, but the other is the manager of your lot. So that's a concern of the public. And it was very contentious for many years when he wouldn't allow any public members who use the beach to go and use that public restroom. So what's the timeline on your public restroom grand opening, shall we say?
We hope to break, our goal right now is to break ground by the end of the year.
And finish it by?
Once we break ground, then it'll be a fairly quick project. So my estimation is summer of 2022, people will be in there using the restrooms, the showers, and the bike blocks.
The other issue that I hear about is trash.
Thank you. Please wrap up, Sid.
Okay. Will you have adequate garbage disposal at that place? Because I know everybody complains about Surfers Beach getting full of trash on the weekends.
Yeah, the Harbor District does trash pickups on where the portable restrooms are right now, several times a day, and that's under the Harbor jurisdiction. And we try to do our best to keep that area clean and check it again several times a day.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, and lastly, we'll go to Fran Pollard.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Pruitt, for the presentation. I do have a question about Surfers Beach. Been waiting for that to be remodeled and fixed for decades now. And so I'm glad that something's going to be done about it, but I'm concerned about the parking that's being taken away. I studied it a bit and I think you're planning 8 handicap parking. Is that right?
That is correct.
And so there's no parking for the surfers. And we in El Granada are planning a park on the Burnham Strip, which is where everybody parks. And that's going to go away. That parking on the Burnham Strip across from the Surfers Beach is going to disappear. It's going to be part of a park that also has been in the planning for decades and is finally coming to fruition. And so I think, is there any chance that you can restudy that? And maybe it's a beautiful plan. And by the way, I want to say about the west shoreline, that's beautiful. I'm very happy to see what you're doing, or what you're going to do over there.
Thank you.
But I'm very concerned about the lack of parking at Surfers Beach. I mean, it's for the surfers and they need more parking. And I think you need to reevaluate and make a less pedestrian walking and play area and more parking. So can that be changed at all? I'm asking.
Well, thank you for your comment. We did consider that in the development of our parking plan, and the parking there that's there along the frontage in there will be converted over to ADA parking to the left of the driveway and straight ahead of the driveway. We're currently, when you enter the RV park and to the right, where there's RVs currently parked, those will be removed and additional parking will be placed in that area.
I know, but I don't think it's even as much as there is currently. So you still need more. Maybe you need to take out more RVs, and they're going to be more RVs north of on Capistrano is going to be another RV park put in. So maybe there needs to be less RVs there and more parking for the public. I would like you to consider that.
I hear you. I hear what you're saying, and that we're meeting, or we're following what the CDP has directed us to do. And I don't know, it is not 1-for-1 on the parking, but we are, again, putting those additional parking over there. There's never enough parking on the coast side on the weekends. In El Granada, or the harbor is always full too. So it's a project, or it's an issue I don't know how to solve at this point, but we are putting that additional parking in to the right of the driveway.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna, I see that Melinda has her hand raised and she hasn't spoken yet on this subject. So I will take her comment and then we're gonna have to move on due to time. We're already very late on this. So Melinda, please go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say it was a beautiful presentation, really well thought out plan. I really like it. I just had a question because I didn't hear any mention about habitat restoration. So wondering if that's in the master plan.
Habitat restoration is a project that's been approved by the Harbor District overall for the entire harbor and areas in which we are responsible for. We don't have the funding to do the entire harbor. So the project is being put on hold until the funding is identified. But with respect to the West Trail and to the RV restroom park, that habitat restoration is definitely involved. We're looking at bringing in natural trees and shrubs, or I shouldn't say trees because we're not going to block the view, but shrubs and other plants that are natural to the coastside out on the West Trail, and removing some of the invasive species. Like the berm is the ice plants are going to be removed, and the berm is going to be all native plants. And the same thing for the RV park. We're going to put native plants back in there. So yes, we are talking about habitat restoration on both those projects.
Very thoughtfully done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
One question raised by Michelle Dragoni concerning the sand storage at the airport. That is, the airport is owned by the county or operated by the county, and we do rent that space in which the sand is stored. And it's around $4,600 a month to rent that space. But the district is being reimbursed by FEMA to cover those costs. So no local monies from San Mateo County is being expended to pay for the storage of that sand.
May I quickly add, just before we finish this topic, just wanted to reiterate the importance of taking the survey. Would really appreciate if everyone is able to take the survey. It takes a maximum of 5 minutes. We really appreciate your feedback. I've been taking notes right now, but any additional feedback on the specific questions that are asked is very important and will be used to influence the master plan as we create it. Thank you for your time.
Can you post it in the chat, the link to the survey?
I did post
Okay.
it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's up above now, but it's the survey.
I can repost it as well.
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, and thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Jim. I also see Virginia is here from the Harbor Commission, so appreciate having you all at our meeting tonight. Very thorough presentation, and we're excited about all the projects. So
thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is wildfire preparedness. It's a topic we have almost every meeting, but tonight, what we wanted to do, so the group of 3 of us that have been working on this subject are myself, Greg Dieguez, and Len Erickson, and the 3 of us have been working on various aspects of this topic, but we wanted to start out this meeting by having just brief updates from a couple people that we've been working with. And we have Sheena Sidhu here tonight, and she's from the Resource Conservation District, also known as RCD. I think most people at this meeting have heard from Kelix, who's the director of the RCD, and Sheena is supporting her right now. Kelix is on sabbatical, so Sheena's here to speak. And she's been at several of our meetings before, but she's going to give us a brief update on the grant status and what the RCD has been working on with respect to wildfire preparedness on the coast. Sheena, are you ready to speak?
Oops, all right. Can you guys hear me? I'm on my phone, so just
hi there.
I was on mute.
We
Okay,
can
great.
see and hear you now.
Thanks, Michelle. All right. Yeah, thank you for having me to speak at this meeting. I'll try to keep my remarks brief, but just also provide an update. A lot has been happening. So for those of you who might not know me from before, I'm the program manager for forest health and fire resiliency with the San Mateo RCD. And as you guys know, and some of you that this might be a little new, is that the RCD is a local government. We help people help the land, and we always work in partnership. So that's working with county parks, CAL FIRE, individual landowners, and communities like yourselves. So I know some of you have been speaking with Kelix Nelson, who's our executive director. She's currently on sabbatical through August, and I've also been engaging with some of you. And so that's the first thing I want to say and I commend you on is that as the program manager for forest health and fire resiliency, I'm getting calls from all over the county for folks that are very concerned about fire risk and wanting to build fire resiliency for their communities. So that's the first thing I want to do is just even commend you on how much work you have been doing. I think of all the communities that I'm working with, you're the most organized, because not only are you just saying like, please somebody do something, you are actually getting organized and like listing out what you want to do and like breaking up your concerns into specific projects. So that's one thing I've enjoyed. I'm speaking with some of the members from El Granada is that to help you with that, because one thing the RCD does is provide this technical assistance to landowners and residents that want help for natural resource management. The other thing that we been working on with some of the community members, specifically with Len Erickson, is Len brought up the idea of scoping out a project with a consultant for working in for projects in Quarry Park in El Granada for eucalyptus management. So this idea was originally brought up, and I think it was like less than $10,000 originally. But when we were actually thinking about scoping out what the work would look like, speaking with Supervisor Horsley, with County Parks, with RCD, with Len, it sounds like it's actually a project that's closer to $75,000 requirement. So the county, and maybe Lena, if she wants to jump in or she can add to the chat, Lena from Supervisor Horsley's office can add to this. But it sounds like that is a more reasonable request to actually get this project done for the scoping of the project. And so to do that, RCD has offered that we could have the funding come through RCD, so we can, that for the procurement purposes of such a large sum. And what we would do is that we would work with the community. So we'd work with a committee. So the committee would be MCC members, RCD, County Parks, Supervisor Horsley, particularly Lena, Supervisor Horsley's office would be Lena. And we would work together to develop a request for a scoping project. And what this would do, the scoping project would develop a suite of project ideas, like a menu of different projects for that would be different costs and different targets. And the idea that behind that and why that's so critical is that when funding comes down from the state, and there's a lot of funding coming down after this, the announcement from the governor earlier this year, there's going to be a lot of funding coming down. What I want the community to be ready to do is if funding comes down for like a $500,000 invasive species project, we would be ready to organize around eucalyptus management for that budget. Or if there's something that comes around for like community-wide vegetation management, like we would be able to quickly package together a project that's suitable and would be high ranking to receive this competitive funding, with understanding like what are different scopes and different projects that could meet these requirements, these goals that the community has overall. So where we are in that process is I'm working together with Lena and Hannah Ormshaw from the county to put together that request that would go to the Board of Supervisors, I believe in early August. Lena nodding her head, thank you. And then my goal would be is that we could get that consultant lined up soon after that. And the target would be to have the project done, scoping completed by early next year at the latest. And that would line us up perfectly for the spring competitive grant season. That's usually, the grants are coming throughout the year, but like the spring season is like the big grant season. So that's what would be the target. The other thing that we've been working on, and I believe you might have talked about it early, somebody messaged me on the chat about the tree ordinance we were talking about improving the tree ordinance. So there's been two permitting issues that have happened that have been potential barriers for fuel management. That's been the coastal development permit and the tree ordinance. So it sounds like you've already talked a little bit about that. There's going to be a new exemption starting July 1st to help owners in the unincorporated areas to help reduce trees in that defensible space zone. So if there's more questions about that, I'm happy to talk about that. The county is going to be making a formal press release about it tomorrow, so you can tune in for that. And the other part of the permitting question is the coastal development permit. And so that's something else that I'm very proud to report on. Permitting is a little bit of a dry subject, so I'm going to try to be brief about it. And I'm also going to link a Half Moon Bay Review article that came out today. So if you want to dig into it a little bit more, but for the past 2 years, we've been working with the Coastal Commission on streamlining permitting. And it's been a long process to finally develop a public works plan, which is an umbrella public works program that would be valid for 10 years. And projects in the coastal zone could be streamlined. And so the quick way to say it is that instead of any project that needs a coastal development permit going to the Coastal Commission and going through a lengthy review process, if we work together, if a landowner works together with RCD and does it under this permit, this public works plan permit that we've put together, and RCD can help check off the boxes, it would streamline the permitting to just 30 days, and it would make projects go much faster. And so maybe for a regular homeowner, this might not seem like a huge deal, but for larger landowners, this would be like streamlining projects so much quicker than it has in the past. Sometimes projects have even stopped. And this is the key, is if we're going to do some large scale eucalyptus projects for El Granada, this is going to be so critical and so important. So I'm very excited to report that, and I'll share a link if you want to learn more details about it, or you can also email me. I'll add my email. And then the last thing I wanted to report on is that last time I was at the meeting in April, that was one of their more, I feel, energetic meetings, where we had a lot of concerns come up with when we had RCD and CAL FIRE and county at the meeting. And the message is clear. Everybody wants something to happen. And that very week, the California Coastal Conservancy, this is different than the commission, but they sound similar, but the Coastal Conservancy, the granting agency, and they came out with a request for proposals for early response projects. And so I told you earlier that every community in the county is asking me to do something like right away for the fire season. I'm super happy to report that I have something for you for this year. And so right after that meeting in August, I got together with Hannah Ormshaw from the county park, and we quickly together in 2 weeks wrote a proposal. And do you remember when county parks proposed like their priority projects? They had a list of, I think it was like 30 priority projects. We picked 2 projects from county parks, number 18 and number 16, if you have that table reference. But that was for shaded fuel breaks along the fire roads, and also a shaded fuel break along the western boundary of Quarry Park. And we wrote together a proposal for $1.7 million saying that, yes, like we have a project ready, we have some permitting ready to go, like we would be ready to implement something this year. And the Coastal Conservancy granted us $1 million from that grant. So I'm super, super pleased for that. That's like, I don't know if anybody else has experience writing grants, but pulling that together in 2 weeks and getting that big of a sum, I'm very proud that we have that to share with the community. So what they will be funding is the shaded fuel break along the fire road. The reason they funded that was because that permitting is already secured through the county's county parks maintenance program. And Coastal Conservancy is very interested in also funding the shaded fuel break along the western boundary of the park as well. But that's not permitted yet. So they said, if you can get this permitting pulled together, we're pretty sure we're going to have funding together soon. We would like to fund that in the future. So that's not guaranteed, but they're very interested in doing it. So that's something else we're going to be working towards. So as my very quick update, I feel like those are pretty good updates. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And I'll also share those links in the chat.
Great. Thank you so much for that update, Sheena. Before we go to questions, I am going to have Len Erickson give a quick update. And yeah, I think that Lena, I wasn't sure if Lena, you had anything additional to add right now. If you did, we could go to you quickly and then go to Len.
Thanks, Michelle. No, I don't have anything to add, but if people have questions, I'm happy to help.
Okay, thanks for being here for that. Let's go to Len next. Len is going to share some of what he and the group of 3 of us on that ad hoc subcommittee on wildfire have been working on.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. I've shared my screen now and want to make sure you can see it.
There we go.
Okay. Yep. So to Sheena, basically, here's a picture of El Granada and Quarry Park together. And I'll a little bit further on go into more detail, but this is really the area you're working with when you talk about Quarry Park and El Granada, correct?
Can you repeat that, Len?
So yeah, Sheena, what's in the map is the area you're referring to when you talk about grants or a family of grants that relate to El Granada and Quarry Park.
The grant that we received for $1 million is for Quarry Park.
No, this is going forward, the future grant you talked about.
Yes, for the future ones, yeah, let's look at El Granada collectively.
Correct. So they both go together. And in doing that, I just want to be clear on the timetable. You felt that you'll have a committee very near term to look at requirements or framework and then publish the RFP for that work. Is that correct?
Yes, I'd like to do that RFP as soon as possible. And that would be pending the funding being approved in August.
Okay. So, and then once approved, you'll put out the RFP and you're hoping to both receive it, select, and then have the product done by early 2022 to support grant pursuit at that time.
Oh, I would, that's what I would like to target. I think that with the committee, we should work together to make sure all of our goals are in alignment, but that's what I think is a reasonable and good target.
Okay, very good. So in looking at this area for the past couple of weeks, I've tried to familiarize myself with who's really involved in the eucalyptus and their removal, assessing what to do. And the list that I came up with is incredibly large. I'm showing it on the screen right now. I won't go into detail, but it's one of the things that makes just working on the process itself difficult. But what I tried to do is to dig into this. And so going back to this map, each of these areas represents a particular issue. We have Quarry Park with its boundary outlined here. And then you have in blue, the medians of El Granada, where the county is doing a small limited scale removal over in this part of El Granada to take out all of the eucalyptus in a couple of zones and do other treatment in it. That's what they funded at $500,000. And then looking to go forward. Once they did this, working with Matt Clark, who is the president of the GCSD board, we did a survey of the entire area. And just to quickly show it to you, Quavo, the project manager, said there's about 200 trees where he's working with, of which maybe 50 are guaranteed to come out. But in the remainder, we found 186 eucalyptus trees, 160 other trees in the medians. So you have a total of greater than 500 trees. In addition, we came to one single vacant lot right by the medians that had 50 trees all of its own. The question it raises, just to look at it, is how do you begin to break that down into particular projects? Because the county's goal is really to just do this small project and step away. It raises a near-term question of what will be done with the land once they move away, because beyond remove it, grinding the stump and putting down chips or whatever else they do, they've left that to the community. And I don't know if there's any near-term things you can contribute, but I do wondering, does RCD do projects like that within the community of El Granada? It's not truly rural.
Oh, we work with landowners. So you're in our district, so we can. So if that's something that you'd like help on, let's discuss.
Okay, the landowner being the county in this case, perhaps.
Yes, we'd have to make sure that, but it's like we're partnering with the county, so I don't see that being a problem.
So up there, then up in the yellow area, that's our El Granada Boulevard, which is flanked with a considerable number of trees on both sides, the west and the east side. And in counting those, working with the residents, what struck me when they did a count of trees on lots, that the category of eucalyptus on vacant lots was extremely large. You'll see the numbers there for the east and west side. And what it pointed me to, as well as large tracts of forest. So this has pointed me toward the fire marshals, as I believe the group that we have to work with there to determine how do they rate it, and as they identify issues, how do we work with them? So beyond the actual funding, just to move past action, beyond either a small scale project like the county wants to do on the medians, or work that individuals do here, which will be facilitated by the permit work that Lena talked about earlier, there's still a large effort there. So what we're trying to do is understand what are the particular elements we have to bring together to bring that into focus, along with the support that you would bring with funded projects. So that's a bit of the background there. And at the end, looking at these are the different areas we communicate with, and I'm sure you recognize them, but all are involved in this. We wanted to talk a little bit about what particular things to pursue, just to educate ourselves in the specific removal of the eucalyptus in different places. And this also includes working with other parts of the community as well. So if you were to look here, you'd see that here is one for Miramar as well. And this isn't as fleshed out as well, but for those two areas we're trying, that The orange area is the Caltrans bypass, which brings forward another issue. We hope to see the Montero Water and Sanitary District have a chance to be involved productively in this area, as well as GCSD. So it's one of the areas we'd like to bring forward, and that'll both require support for you, but also from the county to find an effective role and collaboration there. So those are some of the things we've worked in just in general. And those could be asked with specific questions from the community. In addition, we have been working on an issues list. Greg Diegas is here, and there are a number of items here that are eucalyptus related. But Greg, do you want to speak to any of the other items on the issue list or draw attention to them before we go to public questions?
No, I think we should take questions.
Okay, very good. Michelle, back to you.
Yes. Hey, thank you for that presentation, Lynn. Okay, so next I'm going to go to the council first for questions, and these can be questions for anyone, for either Sheena or Len, or Greg or I. So if anyone on the council has questions, I see Dan does. So go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Sheena and Len, for the presentation. Sheena, yeah, you said that you're working with Hannah at San Mateo County Parks, and I'm glad to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, glad to hear that. Wasn't sure that was before you mentioned that. I was going to definitely ask you about. So, with Quarry Park is obviously, the picture's still up on the screen. Quarry Park is obviously the elephant in the room, the biggest source of fuel right next to the community of El Granada. And so, in the past, Nicholas, the Parks Director, presented, I think you referenced that meeting maybe. Personally, I was unhappy. I was hoping for a greater attention to the overall Quarry Park, specifically major breakups in the fuel breaks. So I guess my first question is, I'm certain that you have talked with Hannah about the what is possible, what is not, and as far as fuel breaks within Quarry Park. But there seemed to be, at least from my perspective, there was a breakdown. There just wasn't enough planned, or it just didn't seem like there was enough energy to really tackle the problem. So I have not spoken with Hannah, but I'm interested in whatever you've learned from her as far as really focusing on getting the limbs down, thinning out Quarry Park, as opposed to being concerned too much with some of the other invasive species, and focusing on the major fuel reduction.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of how I can answer that question without speaking for county parks. I think that it's because it is county parks, but when we have been talking to county parks, I'm also working with county parks on like Huddart and Wonder Lake, down in Pescadero as well. So RCD works with county parks a lot. We work with Hannah and Dan Cruz a lot. And I know that for these fuel reduction projects, they really are working primarily off of that prioritization list that they developed and shared. So that's when we were working on developing a project, we were able to pick from that project list already because those scopes had already been developed. So when you're asking for like something additional or different, I think that's where the scoping project comes in, because that is currently like something that's different than that prioritization list. I mean, anything that's not on the prioritization list, they don't have that developed or scoped out yet. So I can say that like Hannah's on board to discuss the scoping and develop more projects. And that would be the place, that's the place where we can collectively as a community talk about it, about what to do.
Okay, thank you. And you know, have you been working with her? To what degree have you been working with her as far as you know, what is recommended as the best species of trees to be replanted? I think everybody wants not to have a bare mountain, but to you know, to replant with the appropriate species of trees that are not the extreme fire danger. I understand oak is one thing. I don't know about the compatibility with our climate.
Yeah, I don't know if we've gone that deep into the discussion yet, because when we were talking, like right now we're talking about fuel reduction and we're not talking about any replanting at the moment, like with the current projects. And then I remember when we had a discussion, I can't remember if it was in the discussion at the meeting that I last attended in April with Rich Sampson. It might have been a separate discussion with Rich Sampson, but like about returning it to more of the chaparral community as well. But I can't say any, like we haven't gone that far in the discussion yet because we haven't talked about what it would look like yet, because we've just been working on these projects that are at hand.
So it sounds like you're not able to give any comments on RCD's recommendations as far as whether it's redwoods, oak, or whatever as far as trees.
My initial reaction would be to return it to the previous chaparral community. That seems to make sense to me. But if the community for a particular reason is interested in some other trees or vegetation, I don't think that's like off the table for a discussion. Like we should look at what the overall ecological impacts are, right? Okay. And we just haven't had that discussion yet.
Okay, so all right, thank you. Sounds like you're not able to give any top 1, 2, 3 trees that, if they were chosen, you could recommend as being compatible with the environment.
Not right now. No, I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next I'll go to Greg. Greg Dieguez.
Yeah, I'm awake. I'm just not muted. Could I share my screen, because I want to share some thoughts, and this I believe is the right place to do it.
What are you going to share, Greg? We're going to get questions from the council and then go to members of the public. I think that what you're going to share is probably less of a question and more of a statement of your opinion. So let's save that. Okay. Okay. Any other members of the council have questions for either Sheena or Len? I don't see any hands raised, so I'm going to go on to members of the public, starting with Kimberly Williams. And each person, I'm going to try to keep it within 2 minutes since we're running so late. Go ahead, Kimberly.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a community member tonight, not on behalf of Surfrider. Although the thing I'm going to speak about, Surfrider will be paying attention to. This question is, or comment and question is for Sheena. I want to express concerns regarding the PWP projects in the coastal zone. Since this is not a typical PWP, the landscape scale and scope of this project raises concerns as to how carefully it will be implemented over its 10-year timeframe. Although there may be public hearing processes and more specific analysis along with Coastal Commission public hearing requirements. Considering the magnitude of potential projects that this PWP may cover, which have the potential to have cumulative significant impacts on coastal resources, it will be especially important for the RCD to comply with the 5-year programmatic review and 10-year final programmatic review requirements. I know that Committee for Green Foothills had similar concerns. And public agencies often do not have the necessary funding to adequately carry out required mitigation and monitoring programs. And as a result, adaptive management and/or other mitigations are either inadequately carried out or not documented. So I just want to bring those concerns forward and let you respond to them. Thank you.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so we had our public hearing last Thursday where we addressed some similar comments. But we, as you said, we do have our 5- and 10-year programmatic review. We've been working with the Coastal Commission very closely on developing these this public works plan. The Coastal Commission is also going to have their own public hearing on July 8th. So you're welcome to state these questions or these comments there as well. I think there's I can't remember. I think that you can also, I don't have the exact email. I can look for it where you might be able to send public comments, but they'll have the public hearing on July 8th as well. But I mean, I think the short answer is I feel very prepared that we will be able to meet what we proposed for our public works plan. And we've been working with the Coastal Commission and other partners on this.
Okay, thank you. And next, Clemens Heldmeyer.
Yeah, thank you. Just briefly, I'm the general manager of the Montero Water and Sanitary District. Len just mentioned that we have an interest in getting involved, and I wanted to share with you what that interest really is based on. I think we can bring a different perspective to the table. Number of things. First of all, we're a landowner. We own a number of various parcels for our facilities in Montero and Moss Beach. And of course, when in the case of a wildfire, those would be affected. That's on the water side. It's also on the sewer side, but particularly more on the water side. We have a lot of facilities up in the more mountainous regions of Montero. The second one is really impact to the water quality that a wildfire could pose. That's mainly to surface water runoff. Essentially, it's going to end up in the ocean. It's going to affect, the areas of biological significance in the area, Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary, but also our surface water treatment plant. Potentially also, we have a surface water treatment plant. Fortunately, this is not our main source of water. We mainly work with groundwater that wouldn't be directly affected. Coast County Water District also has a surface water treatment plant in the Denniston area. So they probably have a similar concern. When it comes to water quality, the large fires that we've seen in recent years, Santa Rosa area and in Paradise, have actually brought really a new concern to water agencies. After the fires were done, everybody thought they could move back into the houses, but the water systems were contaminated. It took really some time to understand what this contamination was. The fires are so different from house fires. If you have essentially a large number of homes burning at the same time, particularly on hilly situations, there is a tendency for a water system to essentially create a negative pressure suction on the pipes, and all of the melted material, PVC pipes, etc., ends up in the water system itself. And so large sections of the systems in Paradise and Santa Rosa simply have to be changed out. That's a tremendous cost that no one in the community could potentially pay for. The third reason is we have a declared interest in the Caltrans right-of-way. Montero is, I think, a little bit of different composition of trees than El Granada. But we have some sections that Len showed in his sketch that are mainly eucalyptus trees. Other areas are really a mix between, the pine and cedar trees, pine and eucalyptus trees. And the Caltrans right-of-way is, I think, a bit of special case because it's a completely unmaintained property. This is the Montero bypass lands that Caltrans still owns. There was the idea of a highway connecting San Bruno with Half Moon Bay that was abandoned in favor of the Devil's Slide tunnel solution. So that land is still owned by Caltrans and hasn't been really maintained. We as a local agency get a lot of complaints when it comes to the Caltrans property specifically. There is not only eucalyptus on site, but strong undergrowth. Nobody has been taken care of. There's structures on the site that are decaying, partially still connected to PG&E, that are posing a fire hazard. So these are all really the reasons why we hope to get involved. And I wanted to thank Len here and also Greg, who's been keeping us up to date on what the MCC is doing. And we're looking forward to getting involved with the MCC and working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Clemens, for that. We look forward to working with you as well. And next, I'll go to Sid Young. Sid, you're on mute.
Sorry. Sometimes I have a touch screen and it didn't work the first 3 times I punched it. Anyway, this is great, Sheena. When's the next time the chipper program will be in Moss Beach? Because last time was November, I think. And they only did Sunshine Valley Road that time.
Yeah, so we had an event earlier in April, earlier this year, and we had a lot of high demand overall throughout the county. So right now the events are going through beginning of July, and I'm hoping that maybe we could potentially get some additional funding and maybe do some more fall events. So please stand by. Otherwise we will have another spring event that would be around the same time next year.
Oh my God, I missed it, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean, as it was last year, I had to carry them to the back of Montera in my car, but oh well.
You know what else I would love to hear from the community, if I can just say on this specific topic. We have had curbside chipping events where we, with the help of County Fire, select on specific roads where we do the curbside event. If there is a strong interest for doing a drop-off event that would be able to serve more communities, please write me an email and let me know. I'm just concerned that we would have a drop-off event, but people, don't have there's not a lot of pickup trucks like they are down in like La Honda. Those folks have more pickup trucks and they're able to do a drop-off event. But if your folks are interested in possibly doing a drop-off event, which could potentially serve more people, I'd be interested in talking to you about it and seeing if that's something we can do for the community to get more people.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
I had something else I was going to ask, but I totally forgot since then. Anyway.
Okay, you can type it in the chat if you think of it. I'm going to go to Melinda next.
Hi, thanks. So my concern is the replanting and getting green back in there and moisture retained back in the soil. So we have a good fuel break in the areas where we're going to be taking out the eucalyptus. And so the area C1 on the map is kind of a bigger circular area that they're planning on taking all the eucalyptus out. And I'm wondering if there's any plan on how soon we can get in there and do replanting. And just to answer some questions about, there are some native fire resistant plants listed on the FireSafe website. I love that list because you can just go there and look for plants that you want to plant in your yard. Anyway, I'm just wondering how soon after the cutting we can get in there. Actually, I should ask, when is the cutting planned and how soon we can get in there and start replanting and putting moisture back in the soil and shade on the soil.
Gina, do you want to answer that?
I don't know if that's a question for me because RCD is not particularly involved in the median project.
Yeah, it sounds like, so to answer your question on when, the project is planned to start as early as August. I think that's the goal that Quavos said in the last meeting. And there is no current funding or plan for replanting. That's something that we would like to work toward, is figuring out how to fund and replant in a fire resistant way. But there is no current plan. Len, did you have anything additional to add to that?
No, that's what I wanted to point out.
Yep.
I wanted to just also ask or point out, I had been listening to some webinars from the Greenbelt Alliance, and they were talking about how green belts around the wildfire areas can have a significant reduction in any ground fires traveling. And they were talking about working with cities and helping with funding. So that's like another organization that could possibly help the Midcoast Council. It's called the Greenbelt Alliance.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Sure. And then last question for Sheena. When you were talking about the shaded fuel break, what did you mean by shaded? Is that kind of like a green area where you're replanting? Is that what you were talking about?
No, there's no replanting. It's removing the lower vegetation, like the smaller diameter lower vegetation. So it's not, it's removing like the ladder fuels so that the canopy is still intact, but it's not fully removing everything. Like it's not bare.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there's some great, if you just Google shaded fuel break, there's some good pictures that come up. I think having a visual is helpful.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say again, my biggest concern is keeping the moisture in the ground. And I think the wood chips, utilizing those wood chips of the trees cut is going to be super helpful. And then also just putting it out there, anytime we cut anything down, it's going to dry out the area and change the microclimate. So we have to be careful what we do and how we do it. So I think it's really important that we get some plants in there ASAP. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Next, Fran Pollard.
Hi again. Thank you, Sheena and Len, for the presentation. I've got a couple of questions about, well, first of all, I want to clarify the amount of money. I heard you say 1 million, 1.8 million, was it?
1 million for the Coastal Conservancy
grant.
We
requested 1.7 and we received 1 million.
1 million from the Coastal Conservancy. What about the state money? The governor has given millions of dollars to the county. Is that going to be utilized, I hope, this year to do some of the cutting in Quarry Park?
So most of the money that's going to be coming through the state is through multiple different competitive grant processes, and we have not applied to any of that. They're just coming out. They're trickling out right now. And I think that's just something that we need to be aware of and ready for, which is why like scoping and having a project ready to go is key.
And so
we haven't applied for anything yet.
You have to apply for it, or are they giving you the money and you decide what to do with it?
No. The way that RCD, most of the funding that we do is through a competitive grant fund. There might be something independent that's coming through the county, but I do not know of that. The project that I'm talking about would be through a competitive grant process.
Yeah, well, all right. You said the western part of, I'm going back to that big map that had the big orange circle. So that's the bottom part of it. They have mapped out 100 or 200 foot break all the way around that joins the community. Is that what you were talking about? And how soon will that, I hope it gets done this year.
The funding is not for that particular project, and that's the project that County Parks wants to do, that we want to do, that the Coastal Conservancy is interested in funding, but that would be in the future once permitting has been completed for that.
Oh boy.
So I think that's like a very likely project to be funded in the future, but like there's no guarantees right now.
Really? Well, that's what I'm hoping the state money can be used for. It should be coming. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Okay, last public comment I'm going to go to is Maureen Fleming.
Yes, I just would like to add one firsthand account on what happened behind my house when Open Space put in this fire break, and they just clear cut and then it was all chipped. And what really happened is, in place of the eucalyptus, huge, and I mean huge, poison oak groves came up in its place. So I just hope that people consider wherever wood chips go in, and if there isn't replanting, that could be an issue and it should be budgeted for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to close public comment on this topic and then go around to the council for a last round of comments. And yeah, this mostly comments, not really questions at this point. Okay, Dan, you're first.
Yes, Sheena, I think that RCD is like an expert on essentially, dealing with these situations. And so I wanted to ask your opinion on controlling regrowth of eucalyptus or other invasive species that we do not want, in regards to light deprivation and having a heavy layer of wood chips over an existing root system, which would likely resprout. Just to let you know, I do have some experience. I have on one project, saw some resprouting, dug down, took out the sprouts, covered it up with wood chips, come back 3 months later, 4 months later, sprouting up. This time just taking my boot and kicking and breaking up the sprouts versus herbicide. Now I understand typically a lot of documentation says that if you're going to cut a tree, you want to spray it with some level of, or paint it with some level of herbicide. But the root systems are so unpredictable. They could sprout up here or there, you don't know. And this is leading to another argument for a good level of wood chips for light deprivation. So I wanted to see if you had anything to comment, in regards to, the most speediest removal versus, and dealing with sprouts later with wood chips, light deprivation versus maybe a slower reduction of fuel and using herbicide in that method. So wanted to, I don't know if you can comment on that. Appreciate it.
Sure. I mean, what you're saying, these are all tools in a toolbox, right? There's no right or wrong, only one like silver bullet answer to this, and it also depends on the area. It depends on if folks want to use herbicide on their property or not. Like, these are different tools that we could use. So the main way that we're going is to do, like, so much material is going to be produced from this eucalyptus, like so much. We'll have plenty of mulch to be able to cover the root systems. Herbicide is an option if that's something that we want to do in specific places. I think one of the things, especially when we're talking about like Quarry Park and some just Elgranada and the topography, like one of the things, if you recall from, I believe Rich Sampson spoke about this at the meeting, if not, it's been conversations he's had with me repeatedly, like part of the reason that this Elgranada project is going to be so expensive is just because of the topography of Elgranada, right? And just like actually removing the material from there. So if that's the way that like, oh geez, it's going to be hard to remove all this extra material and we can just like lob it up or put it on the ground instead of actually hauling it off, and that would save costs for some reason, then like, but it might mean more long-term maintenance for the sprouts. Like that might be something we have to consider, like we can weigh the costs and benefits of that, right? So I think the answer that you might not want to hear is I'm not going to tell you like this is the right way to do it because it is dependent. But to get to that right answer, it's like weighing what is like the most cost effective, which might mean like more long-term maintenance for sprouts if you want to do that, but it might actually be more cost effective to do that versus like herbicide spraying everything, which might also be cost effective and have some long-term impact. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Next, I'll go to Dave Olson.
I just wanted to say in response to the poison oak comment after the trees are cut, poison oak is a completely normal chaparral plant in this area. It almost always shows up in clearings where trees fall, not just where they're cut. And over a number of years, the normal transition replaces the chaparral with other plants, trees, etc. So don't be upset that poison oak is there. Most of these areas are not areas where people should be walking around a lot anyway. So poison oak should not be a problem.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Any other members of the council want to speak on this topic? Okay, Greg, I see your actual hand raised. So we can, why don't I go to Claire first and then Greg? Or I really want to, I mean, I know we all have a lot to say, but we do need to close this out because we're running very late. So just 2 minutes from each person. Go ahead, Claire.
Okay. First of all, I'm really glad to hear so many people being concerned about replanting. I do think in terms of taking care of the land and of the watershed, we really do need to keep that in mind. And hopefully as this county new regulation comes out about not needing permits to cut eucalyptus, there will also be some consideration of the state of the land after the tree's gone. Also, the other thing I wanted to say is about funding of these things. It is incredibly complicated. The state, as I understand it, does have money to give out, but it's that they're not going to just hand it to you. It has to be divided up for well thought out projects throughout the entire state, and it's not going to go very far. So it's not like we can just wait and the check's in the mail. It's not. That's all.
Great, thank you, Claire. Greg, I'll go to you. I don't think there's really time to share your document though. Can you speak to it?
Well, I think I can speak to it in 2 minutes while I share it. And I want to just say that there's a lot of good progress here, and I think there's a lot of good news. But of course, we're a long way from done. So I'd like to move from the tactical to the strategic. The help we've been getting is largely piecemeal, and we've seen, for example, with parks, that all of the organizations we're working with, whether it's CAL FIRE Parks or whoever, have a lot of competing priorities. As Sheena said, a lot of people are interested. And we have a unique problem. And I think Len raised this in a meeting earlier this week. Quarry Park is going to be beyond the budget for the Parks Department. So I think we need money, and we probably need governance that's focused on our priorities. And I don't know what that is. So we can keep doing what we're doing, which is pushing strings at every separate organization, or maybe we can get a consultant who will advise the county on what governance we need. Len has pointed out that there was a community wildfire protection plan, and the Midcoast section is essentially empty. We've had other people recommend, Denise and Nia recommended we get a fire marshal. I don't know, and maybe Sheena or somebody who's more expert can speak to this, because often plans generate funding. Do we need a report that the MCC helps publish that lists all the wildfire risks and substantiates the need? Len isn't talking about today, but there is eventually going to be some kind of advisory council, and we're hoping to get become a member on it. And then finally, while I think we need a plan, I don't think we want to wait for a plan. We don't want to take a year to study stuff. We want to keep doing what we're doing and get stuff done. But I think we also want to keep in the back of our head this bigger picture, the list of wildfire issues, the need for coordination with LHMP, the local hazard mitigation plan. So I don't know when we discuss this as a group, and I don't know what decision the council decides to take, but I just wanted to give you a feel for the fact that strategically, I don't think we're done talking about this.
Okay, perfect timing, Greg. Thank you. Sheena, did you have anything to say in response to that?
Yes, I would say that as you mentioned, I'm speaking with a lot of people around the county, and I will commend you. And I said that before, is like you all are very organized, and I think like like the way that we were able to pivot really quick and get that $1 million for Quarry Park is what I like the strategy that I think that you guys should all do too. Is just like have these projects and these scopes ready. So when funding comes, we quickly know it. We already know like a tentative budget. We already know the tentative scope. And it's not that you're like, oh, there's some funding. What can we do to make this fit? You're like, we already have this. Let's pick it and let's make it match. I know some of that sounds like it still will end up being a little bit of piecemeal, and it might, but I think your organization, how much effort you're putting into organizing is going to pay off for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sheena. Okay. We need to close out this topic. So I see Dan, you have your hand raised, but is it quick?
Yeah, it's very quick. Just a quick question to Sheena. Have you spoken with Unified School District, Cabrillo? Have you been able to communicate at all with the GGNRA about their trees that are kind of close that could also be a problem? Have you been able to communicate with them at all? Because
they have not reached out to me. I can do that if there's somebody specific that you recommend I reach out to. I can do that, but I have not been reached out to.
Well, absolutely. There's a eucalyptus grove near Clipper Ridge that's owned by the school district, and then anything that's close to the neighboring, the communities which on GGNRA. So that's it.
Sheena, I've been in touch with the GGNRA today. I can get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right, I'm going to close out this topic. Thank you, Sheena, for being here and for your presentation. It's great to see some progress being made. And we'll continue to work together because as many people have said, this topic is not over. There's a lot left to be done. Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to our last item of the night, which is our last item on the regular agenda, which is the future MCC meeting format. And Dave Olson has been putting together some information on this. The governor recently announced that the executive order that allowed meetings to be entirely virtual during COVID is going to expire. It's set to expire at the end of September 30th, which would mean that as of October 1st, we would need to return to in-person meetings. So I know it's a few months away still, but as the MCC, we really need to start figuring out what that means in terms of how we meet, when we meet, and how we can still allow, some of the benefits of this virtual meeting format, allowing people, especially members of the public, to participate from their own locations. We've had probably more people at these Zoom meetings. I think 44 people tonight was a high. So we definitely want to still encourage that remote participation, but how we can do that moving forward. So I'll hand it over to Dave.
Thank you. I will say that one thing we need to do is start putting a different executive order on our agendas. The previous executive order that we've been mentioning on our agendas expired on June 15th, along with everything else. And there's now a new one for those who are geeks. It's M08-21. And what it says is essentially exactly the same thing as the original one, but sets a new date of September 30th. So September 30th, unless something else happens, we go back to original Brown Act rules. And as a reminder to everybody, the Brown Act says that a body has to meet in one location and the public has to be able to attend. It is allowed for less than a quorum, which in our case is no more than 3, to be remote. But for those people to be remote, the public must be allowed to attend at the same location as each of the people who are remote. So people, if we go for a hybrid approach and some people on the council choose to attend remotely from their homes, then they need to allow the public into their homes. And if the reason they want to stay remote is because they don't want to be in a room with people, that's obviously not an approach that will work. So everybody on the council needs to be thinking about that. I'm hoping everybody is vaccinated, but if not, time to get going. On more specific issues, the GCSD meeting room that we normally meet in is available to us right now. I've confirmed that with Delia Comito at GCSD. I have sent email to PCTV about recording. I've not yet heard back from Jason. If we go for only in-person meetings, then they would need to go back to in-person meetings recording. Or if we go for a hybrid approach, which I personally would like to see, and I'll describe that more in a few minutes, then it's possible PCTV could continue to record off the Zoom feed, which obviously is much simpler for them. I think it actually ends up producing a better recording. Whether it would in the hybrid mode or not, I'm not sure. I'm not going to bother to read any of the wording on the period from now until September 30th, because it is essentially identical wording. But I will remind people that if we go hybrid and you do not want to attend the meeting, we have to announce that at the same time we announce the agenda. And we have to allow people to attend at whatever location you are attending, and it can be no more than 3 people. I should also say at this point, I do not expect us to reach a decision tonight. This is mostly to get people thinking about it, for people to raise issues and concerns. And we will undoubtedly have to have at least one more, and probably more than one more agenda meeting item on this before we make a final decision. As Michelle said, we've seen increased public participation, and I think that's a good thing. I would not like to see us go to the model that the Half Moon Bay City Council has typically done prior to COVID, where they broadcast live on the cable TV channel, but people can't interact over it, obviously. I think the interactive approach is actually quite important. So whether it's Zoom or something else, I feel less strongly about. I will note that we just renewed Zoom. Our Zoom license runs through May 31st of 2022. So we're good on that. So if the de facto answer would be to continue with Zoom on a hybrid model. I personally would like to see us try the hybrid model in July or August. That is before we hit the September 30th deadline. So we've got some experience. That would allow us to do some fine tuning. And I would hope everybody, all the council members, at least at this meeting, and perhaps some members of the public, would be willing to speak up on how soon they would be ready to return to in-person meetings. If we go to a hybrid model, we need some new equipment. We can't just have a laptop to handle all the remote interactions. My recommendation is we spend about $300. We buy a hybrid, an omnidirectional microphone. We buy a couple of powered Bluetooth speakers, and we buy a 24-inch monitor that can sit out sort of in the same area where we normally have the projector, so that everybody on the council can see whoever's speaking remotely, and a webcam that would then go on that monitor, and not just the standard webcam that comes built into the monitors, because we need a wide angle one. As I say, I've priced all of those on Amazon. We can get all of that for under $300. So the next agenda item we have on this, we might want to consider approving the purchase of that equipment. I think Zoom has good enough anti-feedback that if we get two speakers, one to point at the council, one to point at the room audience, and we have an omnidirectional mic, we will not have much problem with feedback. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has, but I'm expecting this to be mostly a discussion.
Great, thanks Dave for preparing that and doing the research. First questions from the council. Before you go, let's just do questions right now, and then we'll go back to the council to share our thoughts. So any just questions for Dave? Those of you, yeah, okay. Len?
So Dave, in researching this, have you been in touch with Tim Fox?
Michelle has initiated a conversation with Tim that I'm CC'd on, but Tim has not
responded.
gotten back to us yet.
Okay, so is this mostly from reading things that you're putting this together?
Yeah, the executive order, there's some articles. I will actually put a link to that in the chat right now that talk about the possibility of hybrid meetings. It's pretty clear that right now there is nothing in the Brown Act that prohibits the hybrid meeting, that is allowing the audience to attend remotely. And in fact, various bodies have done that for a long time.
A question about that then, Dave, for what you're suggesting. If I'm a council member who wants to do that, then I want to meet from my home. So I have to post that as a place that is open to the public. And if they come, could they come with their own computers and get on them? Or I have to set my home up with a ability to handle 3 or 4 people who would join into a common device there?
The way I have seen this interpreted in the past is the most common example is if a body member is remote, they have to have something like a conference phone so that whoever is at that location can both hear and see. The council member's personal laptop, I would think, satisfies that just fine.
So you set up people around, let's say your dining table with a laptop, and people could all work there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Greg, question from you.
I don't understand how this requirement is real, what you're just describing, because I've watched Montera have council members, board members attend meetings remotely for a decade, give or take. And I haven't heard anything about them having to invite people to go to wherever they are, Lake Tahoe or whatever. So I wonder, maybe that's something Tim Fox can answer. The second question I have is, what are we going to do about vaccination? Because there's a public health issue here, and I'm frankly surprised that the executive order is returned to prior public attendance without any compliance for vaccination. So I don't know what we're going to do to get that information.
I can answer your first question quite clearly. I've seen this at various supervisor and city council meetings. You do have to announce ahead of time where the person will be, and you do have to allow the public to attend. That is the way it is. And I believe MWSD has in fact done that when they've had people attend remotely. I know SAM has done that, city council has, CCWD has done it. As far as vaccination requirements, I think that is a point, so say somebody has a medical issue. I'm not saying anybody on council does, but say somebody on the council had a medical issue and therefore they couldn't get vaccinated and they were at risk and they could not attend a council meeting. You obviously don't want other unvaccinated people at their location. That's a real issue. I don't know whether that will be addressed between now and September 30th. I don't know if it will be addressed by emergency action after that, but this is how things stand at this exact moment.
Okay, thank you. Question from Claire.
Dave, I always appreciate the hospitality of the folks in El Granada, But do we have other options of places to meet?
Yes, there are certainly other places we can meet. We can rent the Mavericks Event Center. We can rent the Yacht Club room. I'm a member there, so I can rent that. There's the Community Center in Half Moon Bay. There's the Harbor District Meeting Room, which is in the same building as GCSD. They have allowed some people to use that. They will be the building owners by the time we are meeting there. I assume everybody has heard that. But the short answer is yes, there are other places. We've met at Seton in their dining room, and that has not been at all satisfactory. Both available in our budget and satisfactory are the question.
The place we've been meeting at does have real limitations, but we're coming back to the whole thing of not having a community center. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and Dan and Jill, did you have questions right now?
I got a question.
I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead, Dan.
So, Dave, you know, as far as the whole concept of, I guess I want to piggyback on Greg's questions. You know, clearly there's the spirit of the Brown Act, which ultimately is having transparency for the public. As far as inviting people to, it just, I don't know, it just seems like that's going to get kind of washed out. It doesn't seem, I don't know, it doesn't seem logical. It seems like it was kind of pulled out of some language that was written pre-COVID. But now that we're post-COVID, yeah, it just doesn't seem, I'm not saying it's completely against it. I'm just questioning the logic. I want to know if, you know, you can comment on the logic of it, I guess.
Sure. I mean, the logic of it is basically that the executive orders are under his emergency powers. And at some point, probably sooner rather than later, those emergency powers will be dropped. And therefore, the law goes back into effect. Now, all the issues that have been raised here have also been raised by various other government bodies. People have raised it to the state senators and assemblymen. The legislature can certainly change the laws around the Brown and Bagley Acts, but so far they have not. They have, under the current scheme, until September 30th. It's quite possible we'll get to September and things will be in process but not resolved. And if the governor is still under his emergency powers, he may very well extend it again. But for now, we have to go on what we have right now.
Thank you, Dave. That's my only question. Thank you.
Okay, Jill?
I can incorporate my question into a comment. So if you want to go around for comments, that would be fine.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to public comment now then. And Sid Young is the only person who has their hand raised.
I guess I raised my hand when Dave started talking about, you know, if you don't want to attend in person, you can attend remote via the hybrid model, but you have to have people come to your house. And I'm like, I thought he meant me because I like to attend remotely. I was on the fire board meeting, like, you know, it wasn't ended yet, but I popped over to yours. I would have to drive to both meetings, and that's just not going to be too possible. But by the same token, there's no way I'm going to go drive over to one of your guys' houses just to watch it there. So, you know, the whole point of having it remote is you can watch from home. And I don't know. I'm in favor of having the hybrid model, and I think if it's a really well attended or a popular subject, I might get my butt over to your live meeting, but I certainly would like to move the venue. That sanitary district office is way too small. It's if you open the windows to let in fresh air, you hear too much traffic noise, so it's hard to hear the speakers. And if you keep the windows closed to keep out the noise, it's really stuffy in that room. I really think we could find a better location. So I agree that Seton was not optimum because they had their loudspeaker going in the room we were meeting in. So, and sometimes patients would wander in kind of oddly. So I don't know. I would like to see if you could scope out the El Granada fire station. I heard they had a meeting room, but I don't know how big it is. But they might open it to the community since we paid for it. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay, I'll clarify in the first part. I won't comment on the second part because that's more council discussion. On the first part, I want to be really clear. It's only if a council member decides they want to be remote, that the council member under the Brown Act, assuming we go back to the Brown Act, has to allow the public at their house. The hybrid model would still allow anybody to attend by Zoom from anywhere, including the other side of the world.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see any other public members of the public who have their hands raised. So I'm going to close public comment on this topic and go around to the council for one last round of comments. And Jill, I know you have a hybrid comment / question, so I'll start with you.
Thanks, Michelle. I thank you, Dave, for all your work on this. It's very informative and very surprising to me. I have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is only 66% effective. So it's not 100%. And I also have a lot of children in my life. So many of them are not vaccinated as well because they can't be yet. I'm concerned that in September, the Delta variant's going to hit the schools and we're going to have another a big problem. And I don't think it's safe for us to be meeting yet. If we did meet, I love the hybrid idea, but have we considered meeting somewhere that's outdoors that would have lighting and electricity and such, like the IDEA, where they do that Pumpkin Way Off, has that nice, huge courtyard, maybe something like that. And one other thing is the equipment that we need to purchase for this. Is there a way that we can have the county purchase it using some of their COVID relief money, since we have to upgrade because of this? That's my question. Thanks.
Dave, did you have, well, I guess.
This is more comment and discussion, so take Dan first.
Yeah. Okay, Dan?
Yeah, so I'm going to say off the bat that I'm in favor of a hybrid concept, although I do understand that it opens up complications. You know, there have been few, I guess I would say few people that I've talked to in the community that were absolutely against the whole you know, Zoom concept and not having in-person meetings. So, but I think with time and with the evidence that, you know, more people have been participating through Zoom, I think the Zoom option is clearly important, and I think that we should do what we can to keep a hybrid option. You know, it opens up the question, okay, if we're going to have a in-person meeting, then what would we do? Rotate, having council members rotate and open up the in-person meeting, and then of course equipment. Jill brought up a pretty good important concern, is because these vaccines are not 100%. So I think that's just basically, I'm totally in favor of some type of a hybrid. I think that we just need to work through it. We got a little time. I think that a lot of the language that Dave's referencing is kind of out of date. It may be in fact by letter of law currently, but I think the spirit of it is as long as people can participate and it's reasonable, it should meet the Brown Act. But we'll see, and we'll talk to Tim Fox, and we'll see how the legislators kind of write the new situation. That's all I have. Thank you.
Dan, back to Dave.
Okay, so more soapbox stuff at the moment. There are a number of locations on the coast where we can meet. Past councils and this council also in the past, when we were, or some of us were on, had a very, very strong desire to continue to meet in the mid-coast. So that pretty much took out the choices in Half Moon Bay or Pacifica for that matter. The choices like the Mavericks Event Center or the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club are not cheap. We could not afford to meet there every meeting under our current budget. So it has to be someplace that's free. When the fire station was being built and they were discussing the possibility of community using their meeting room, the question was asked how big it was. When I looked at the plans, it's not a very big room. I think it's even smaller than the GCSD space. But even if it was a larger room, it's certainly more modern, it's better ventilated. The problem would be meeting there on a regular basis. I don't think they want to dedicate their meeting room on a regular basis. We can certainly ask the fire district. It's a good question to ask, and I'm quite happy to ask them that. The question about meeting in the open is a non-starter to me. It rains in the winter, we hope. And even if it wasn't raining or really windy, which is also quite frequently the case in the evenings, you need power for the Zoom equipment. Yeah, we could bring a big, huge battery backup or something, but I really don't think meeting outside is a viable option for an evening meeting. Let's see, what else did I have to say on that? So yes, I like the hybrid model. Yes, I hope the legislature does something to relax the Brown Act. I agree with Dan that if we're doing a hybrid model, the Brown Act wording is no longer really all that relevant, but nonetheless, it is the law. There have been bodies that have been taken to task by various agencies and even, I think, sued for not following it. So unless the legislature changes, I don't think we have a choice. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Dave. And Len, next. Len, did you have something?
Yeah, a question. So with the hybrid model, in maybe I miss it or it's obvious. So can any citizen Zoom into the meeting?
Yes.
So basically it says that if a council member isn't present at the meeting, then they have to advertise for people are free to come into their home, but all citizens can still go remotely. It sounds great.
Okay.
I mean, all I'm required to do is advertise, not necessarily that people will come.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's
can't imagine that-
incredibly rare.
Yeah.
If somebody is at a conference on the East Coast, it's incredibly unlikely. If it's Tahoe, even, if they're just on the other side of the hill on a hospital room or something. But nonetheless, that's the state of the
So I don't have to worry that Sid will want to come to my house to watch the meeting.
Oh, maybe she thinks you have better beer than she does.
Okay.
You absolutely don't have to worry.
All right. Thanks, Glenn. Greg?
Point one, I think the hybrid model is the bare minimum we should strive for. The increased participation that we've experienced is part of the point of the Brown Act, which is about transparency. And we've gotten a lot more transparency. Secondly, if we allow the hybrid, we're not going to have a lot of people coming. So the discussion of the venue, I think, is largely moot. GCSD is going to be fine because there are not going to be a lot of people coming. Thirdly, it's a lot more than the Delta variant. And I'll write about this tomorrow. There are 2 other variants you haven't yet heard of that are also coming along. This virus is continuing to evolve. And as Dr. Michael Osterholm, who's the leading virologist around, said, it's like you get vaccinated, you have a 95% fireproof suit. But that doesn't mean you want to wander into every fire you run into to test the suit out. Okay, so Jill's got a great point. I don't think we should just sit here. I think the MCC should write a letter requesting continuation of Zoom meetings, and we should write it to our state governance. And I'll let you decide who that state governance is. I'll be glad to author a draft of the letter. I don't think we should just wait and hope. I think we should actually say no.
I second that.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks, Greg. Claire?
I'm very interested to see that there's so much sentiment of caution about getting back to in-person meetings. I have very much enjoyed the Zoom meetings. I hated it at first, but it's really worked out well. We've had so much more involvement from people. I've only met Jill once, I think, in person. So that's a downside. But it seems like it's working. I would not want to rush to go back to in person at all if I didn't have to. But another thought about a place to meet, probably not a good idea, but we should keep thinking, is the sheriff's substation in Moss Beach. That's another thought. Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Claire. I'll just give my opinion and then Dave can wrap up. Yeah, I second what Claire said. I'm not in a hurry at all to go back to in-person meetings. I have 2 small children who are unvaccinated and who will remain unvaccinated until at least next year, from what the doctor told me at the recent visit. So I'm not in support of attending an in-person meeting anytime before I absolutely have to. And so I'm also hoping that we're not the only council and there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of groups in California who are all probably advocating. So I don't really think it's necessary for us to write a letter. I'm sure that something is going to happen to modernize the Brown Act in this world of online meetings and post-COVID especially. So that's all I have to say. I'll turn it. Oh, I actually did have one more thing to say. Attendance among council members, I think, has been 100% all year long. I may be mistaken, but I think every single one of us have attended every single meeting. And I've only been on the council for a couple years prior to this, but that was never the case before. We generally had, 1 or 2 people, even 2 people out at certain meetings. So I think that this helps the ability to join online. I've joined from outside of my home, outside of the area. I know several of us have. So I think it's an option that I'd definitely like to see continue, both for council members and members of the public to join online. Okay, Dave?
Yeah, I agree. I think we have had 100% attendance, and that was incredibly rare in the past. I also have attended from other locations, and I'd love to be able to keep doing that for a number of reasons. And there was a question in chat about attendance prior to COVID and Zoom meetings. And the short answer is it was all over the place. We had anywhere from one person in the audience at some meetings to 50 when there was a really hot issue. Before I was first elected to the council, I was often the only member of the public attending the council meetings, which is one of the reasons why they suggested I run. And it was incredibly rare to have more than 4 people attending a meeting. So part of that is the issues we're taking up, and part of it is Zoom does make it much, much easier. We could, in answer to, I think it was Greg's question, can we ask the county to buy the equipment for us? We certainly could. I mean, there's a whole nother issue in the MCC budget. We've had an allotment of $3,000 now for, I think it's 9 years. It has not gone up with inflation, hasn't gone up, period. So we could certainly ask for more money for an equipment budget or ask the county to acquire it. There's a real issue with having the county just acquire it, because then we have inventory tags and all kinds of problems. I would rather not do that, but we might be able to get a one-time grant. So those are all things. I do think it's worth us deciding on what we want and sending a letter to the supervisors and to our 2 assemblymen, because we have 2 assemblymen covering the Midcoast, and to our state senator. The more government bodies they hear from, the more likely they are to act. I think our particular legislators are all very liberal. They're probably all going to be in our court, but I don't think that's going to be true of the entire state. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. And one last thing I wanted to point out is I believe our Zoom license only allows for 100 people to join remotely. And we got pretty close to that at the meeting on fire back in April. So just something to take note of. I hope we, I mean, on one hand, I hope we get a lot of attendance, but in the future, at some meeting, if there's a really popular meeting, we may be capped at 100 people remote. So, okay, thank you for doing all that research, Dave. If we do want to write a letter, we could talk about that at future agendas, but I'm going to close out this item for now and move on to council activity. Who wants to go first in council activity? I have a couple things I can start with. The first thing is the newsletter. So I failed to mention at the last meeting a reminder of the due dates for the newsletter. And so only one person, which was Dan, got his letter in, or his article in on time. And since then, I think Jill has received all of the articles with the exception of the wildfire topic. So between Len, myself, and Greg, we need to finish that article. But just the update here is that the newsletter will be delayed by a couple weeks. The good news is we do have a lot to write about now in terms of wildfire, because we've had several updates, and then that press release will come out tomorrow, which I definitely want to include the topic on the eucalyptus removal, or the tree removal without permitting in that. So thank you to everyone who got their articles in. We will aim to finalize those articles, get those all to Jill by next or end of this weekend or beginning of next week. And so then we'll have to send those translation, and so that newsletter will come out sometime in early July. And then I do want to point out on the articles, the articles do need to be non-biased and a report of either things that have happened in the community or at a meeting. And so there may be some more extensive editing required if the articles come in with a slant to them. So I just want to point that out. Jill's our editor and she can take care of that. I see hands raised and I'm not sure if those are questions for me or about or other updates. So I'll just continue with my other updates. Do have a request that I sent to the council to have a representative for the San Mateo County Tsunami and Wildlife Planning Initiative. So I didn't get any volunteers. I got a nomination from Greg nominated Dave, but I don't think Dave knew about that. So I do need someone to volunteer for that effort. And then the last thing I was just going to send an update on is, or just tell an update is that we did get communication from, there's a couple different advisory councils in the county, and including in Pescadero and I want to say, can't remember the name of the other council, but North Fair Oaks, that's right. So there was a request to get a couple people together to just talk among the three councils on how we can work together, how we can make progress. And so Claire and I will be participating in that effort. That's it. Dave?
I just wanted to say that early in the meeting, Jason from PCTV sent mail with regard to hybrid meetings, and they are having their first hybrid meeting that they're doing the recording for on July 20th. So he'll send the updates as they get closer to that and the results of it. Their big concern is feedback, obviously.
Yes.
And as far as the tsunami thing, if it's what I think it is, yes, I'd be happy to be the representative.
Okay, great. Thank you. Greg?
Since the last meeting, you may or may not be aware that the water districts in Pacifica and CCWD have published their urban water master plans. Deadline was extended a year. Assuming that the Bay Delta plan remains in effect, which it looks like it's going to be, that restricts flows during drought years so that the rivers will stay alive. The cutbacks in Half Moon Bay and Pacifica in the case of multi-year droughts are going to be over 50%, potentially as high as 80%. And Montera has not yet taken a public position. They said at the last board meeting, oh, we're fine, we're well managed, we have plenty of water. And then if you stayed for the whole meeting, you heard the attorney report who outlined the conditions under which the district could define a connection moratorium. So they obviously are concerned, and they're already asking people to conserve, even though they're not publicly admitting they have a shortage, because I don't think they know. So the issue of a moratorium on all new population expansions, hotels, construction, whatever, I think is a mandatory one for us to consider. I know we don't have any power on that, but I, for one, oppose approving any permit that asks for building a house, because we're going to further reduce our own water security and fire safety. And the cost of the incremental water that we could eventually develop after we invest billions of dollars over decades is going to be 5 or 7 or 10 times higher, as you probably heard from the Senator Becker speech, the board member of Valley Water spending 10 times. So I just want to alert you to the fact that we've got a drought. Some measures treat it as a 1,200-year drought. It's darn serious. So I just want you to be aware that I've researched it, and I'll have more to write on that later.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Len?
I just wanted to say, I've already reported on meetings and conversations attended, but as far as the newsletter go, I was really holding off even trying to think about what it should be until we had this meeting. And since we're looking at probably bringing more to 2 meetings in July, I think it's good timing. And I certainly would like to see the effort finished by this Sunday. I think we can do that with, some collaboration with you and Greg.
Agreed. Let's do that. Okay, Dan?
Yes, I wanted to report that I was at the advertised pop-up at the harbor, Johnson Pier. You know, I tell you, I gotta say, I'm really hesitant to share this based on you know, Jim Pruitt's you know, great work tonight and everything, sharing, you know, his plan. But I have to say, since I did witness it, and I thought it was just a little bit disturbing. You know, the pop-up was advertised to come into the harbor, and you can, you know, get some information, take a survey. Showed up. I wasn't the only one. There was 4 other people with me that all met at the same time, and we were looking for a table or something to mark that, hey, here's the information. No, what they had was a well, I was told 2 people, but I only saw 1 person, and that person, you know, had no button, no T-shirt, nothing, just standing there like a regular visitor, um, walking around talking to people. So I just wanted to, again, I feel bad. Yeah, I don't want to put anything negative on you know, the management, Jim Pruitt or anybody, but it was a bit of a concern that you know, the Harbor District promoted or advertised a pop-up, and then, you know, people take their time, they go out there and they don't see anything, turn around and walk away. There's nothing here. But I actually did find a person, you know, again, unmarked, you know, no button, no table, nothing, just walking around like a regular person, taking surveys. So I just want to share that with the council. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, let's move on to future agenda. Oh, sorry. I did want to correct one mistake that I made earlier on. I did get an email right before this meeting that I didn't read until I was in the meeting about Coastside Hope, and from Judith Guerrero, who's the executive director, and she said that they are in fact doing vaccine clinics in their parking lot. The next one is on June 25th, which is Friday, a Pfizer vaccine between noon and 6 p.m. I'm going to respond to her and just let her know that, you know, I had trouble finding that information on her website, on the Coastside to Hope website, but I did want to correct that. And it sounds like they're going to be having this regularly. So I'll work with her to make sure that that gets updated, and maybe we can even post it on our social channels. And then I also just wanted to suggest, as a topic for the newsletter, potentially adding this in about the vaccine clinic, because this is the first I know of any vaccine clinic on the Midcoast. And so if everyone agrees with that, we can add that information into our newsletter, assuming it's an ongoing clinic. If anyone doesn't, just okay. I was taking silence as a yes. All right. Next item is future agendas. So for July 14th, we'll probably have some additional wildfire topics coming out of this meeting. We do have 3 weeks between now and the next meeting. I just want to note that, since the way the calendar falls is the second Wednesday in July. And then I also have the MCC website upgrade, which is something that Len wants to bring forward. It's something we had talked about at the retreat. Nothing set in stone, but just wanted to bring that topic Yes, Len, did
Well, I
you?
was going to fold that into the budget report, which would be for the first meeting in July, because it sort of frames both the opportunity and the chance to bring it forward.
Okay, so in the first meeting in July, we'll have the treasurer's report as a consent agenda item. I
Right.
think that this should be separate.
Understand.
Okay. All right, Claire?
Two thoughts. One, Michelle, you would ask me about this, so I'm just bringing it to everybody.
Yes.
At one point, the people in El Granada that got together and were cutting down the 31 eucalyptus trees, they had agreed to talk to us and describe their project to us. At this point, I'm sure they would probably still be willing to come. I don't know if those of you that are working with the fire, if you think that's a good idea, or should I ask them to come, try to set that up, or what do you think?
Why don't you put me in touch with them? I would like to talk to them a little bit and
Okay.
discern from that.
Okay.
I think it was really interesting when it happened earlier on in the year. I do wonder how relevant it is now with the information that Lena reported tonight about the change in permitting requirements, or no longer a need for permit. Maybe there's other aspects of that program though that they, in terms of like how they went about it outside of the government, the permitting process, that could be beneficial to people. I
They
would
do
just
a lot
ask
of
Claire
planning.
if it's something that she wants to work on. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be the group of 3 of us, even just because it's wildfire. Like, it's a large topic, and we could split off this topic and have Claire bring this to a meeting. It's up. I'd leave it up to Claire is what she wants.
Okay, maybe I should talk to Len, and then we'll kind of put our heads together and.
Okay, yeah, you two talk about that, and then we won't talk about that as part of our group of wildfire
And then the other
consideration.
thing was what the people were bringing up earlier today about the East Miramar
Yes.
issues. That has come to our attention indirectly with a referral for tree removals that we looked at earlier in the year, if you guys remember that. It's the same property.
Yep.
It is problematic. I don't know if we want to do anything with it or not.
So my opinion on that, for what it's worth, after reading the county opinion on their website, is the county has washed their hands of this. And unless we want to go fight with the planning department to reverse their decision, and I don't know that we've got a good basis for that, I really don't think there's much we can do on this. We've already expressed our opinion that we asked the fire department to be involved. We heard tonight that the fire department is involved. I think it would be better to let the fire department and county planning work it out myself. But I'm very interested in other people's opinions.
Well, my opinion is we have to fight for our residents.
Did you see
I heard
the
you.
base?
I heard you.
No, I was just going to ask, did you see the basis for the county opinion?
No, I did not. What I
Okay.
heard was the residents
I'll mail it
describing
to
a
you.
severe situation.
What they described is not what the county said, though.
All right. Well, so I volunteered to look into this with whoever else wants and provide an update to the council at the next meeting. I don't see that we can ignore it.
We did address that property. We did raise some concerns with the planning commission. There's a lot going on there. If you want to look into it, that would be fine.
Yeah, do I have any other? I think it would make sense for at least one other person to join Greg working on that. And do I have any other volunteers?
Yeah, I'll work with you, Greg. I think it's something to look at. I agree. Yep.
Okay, and I think it would be good if either Dave or Claire joined that conversation. To Dave's point, well, we had a point made offline in terms of writing letters. Let's have someone who may fall on the other side of the issue join in on the letter writing process, because he'll probably have concerns if it is brought to a meeting. So better to involve him sooner rather than later. Would you
I'm
be
quite
willing to do that, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, so the group of three, Dan, Dave, and Greg, please let me know if you're ready to have that at the July 14th meeting, or if it would be the 28th. Just let me know at least a week in advance.
And what I need to trigger it is Dave to send me what he's got.
Yeah, I will.
You three can talk offline about that. Okay.
And send it to me also, Dave, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for a future meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
Wait. I'd love to adjourn. Should we choose a July meeting to talk about the hybrid meeting approach? It doesn't have to be July 14th.
Well, you said they're doing the first one in July, Dave?
Yeah, July 20th. So I would
Cool.
actually propose that.
Why don't we just get feedback from that in the second meeting in July and then talk about doing one in August?
It's getting awfully late. What I would propose is a July 28th agenda item. And I'll report back what PCTV has and anything else I can find out from the fire department.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll tentatively put that on there, and then we can talk as it gets closer if we're ready for that.
Thanks.
Okay.
Is it legal for me to, is it legal for me to write a letter to state senators and ask other members of the MCC to co-sign it?
Yeah,
if you don't
it's more
sign
than
it,
3.
if you very clearly state that you're writing these as individuals, you can say you're a council member, but you have to very clearly say you're doing it as individuals.
He couldn't talk with more than 2 other people about that, though, right? I mean, that would be a Brown Act violation.
Why don't we just do a letter as the council?
If there's enough interest in that, I'm happy
I'll
to
write
have
the letter.
that.
I'll write the letter.
I'm interested.
Yeah, and then the other thing I would just point out is that takes away, I'm only going to have a maximum of 3 topics at any meeting. So all these things are taking away from wildfire and other issues that we could address. So Jill, Greg, if you guys want to work on that together, I'm happy to have it.
Should they put a letter together and propose it for consent?
That's a good idea.
Can I offer something? Can we just pick someone, maybe Greg, communicate to Tim Fox and express in regards to the hybrid meeting concept, some of the things.
I'm already in touch, or Dave and I are already on an email reaching out to Tim Fox about that. And
okay, so what, maybe just give them a little bit of time because some of the stuff just doesn't seem logical, and the whole thing's kind of going through a process. Why waste MCC valuable meeting time? Just let them kind of, as long as they understand that there's a concern, give them time to give us feedback as to what, the state's going through and everything as far as growing pains through this whole thing.
Tim Fox is not going to be the answer, I don't think.
Right.
It doesn't at the state level.
I would propose write a very, very short letter, no more than 2 paragraphs, summarizing what council members said tonight and propose it for consent.
I'll do it.
If it gets pulled from consent, then we move it to the next meeting.
I'm in favor of Claire writing it.
all right, Claire, Greg, and Jill, how about the 3 of you?
Okay.
Work together on that and bring it to consent for the 14th.
One more effort for a motion to adjourn?
Yes. Do we have a second? Dave seconds. Roll call vote.
Claire.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
Jill.
Yes.
Len.
Absolutely.
Michelle.
Yes.
Yes. Thankfully. Thank you all. I did not expect this meeting to go this late.
Me neither. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for